Today's Monday, June 14th, 2021. Coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered, the Supreme Court ruled that it won't extend reduced charges to low-level crack cocaine offenders. We'll talk with Congressman Bobby Scott about that very issue. Republican Congressman Byron Donalds says the Congressional Black Caucus is blocking his admission. We'll talk with him right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Most of the people in hospitals with COVID-19 are unvaccinated. Well, there's a correlation. They're in the hospital. They didn't get vaccinated. Dr. Ebony Hilton will join us with those details. Also, actor and director Bill Duke will be here. The preview of his new film, No Sudden Move. And why won't Speaker Nancy Pelosi talk with black-owned media like Roland Martin Unfiltered? I'll break it down for you. Plus, today's crazy-ass white woman explodes in North Carolina store. And we have a bonus crazy-ass story, but this time out of San Francisco. But this guy ran up against the wrong brother. It's time to bring the funk on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the biz, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, roll, y'all. It's Roland Martin, yeah. Rolling with Roland now. He's funk, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin now. Martin.
All right, folks, in a unanimous decision, the Supreme Court ruled a revised federal law does not allow prison inmates to seek a reduction in their sentences for possessing small amounts of crack cocaine. The First Step Act, passed in 2018, made sweeping changes to the criminal justice system, but this ruling means the law does not apply to low-level offenders, even though supporters said they intended it to do so. Joining me now is Democratic Congressman Bobby Scott of Virginia and Arthur Argo, Director of the Criminal Justice Project. Glad to have both of you on the show. Congressman, I want to start with you. And so this is a unanimous decision. Conservatives and liberals on the Supreme Court all agreed. What happens now? Because these individuals were seeking lower sentences based upon the First Step Act. Now what do?
Well, the First Step Act, I think the court was technically correct. But if you read Justice Sotomayor's concurring opinion, it clearly shows that we can correct the opinion because it was based on statutory construction. This First Step Act was designed to eliminate the draconian effect of mandatory minimums. And Mr. Terry was sentenced not by mandatory minimums, but by the sentencing guidelines. He was a low-level offender, but he had apparently an extensive criminal record, which significantly enhanced his punishment. It wasn't because of mandatory minimums, it was because of his criminal background. Still, as Justice Sotomayor mentions in her concurring opinion, the fact that there was a 100-to-1 crack powder disparity wrongfully influenced the decision to give him all of that excessive time. That kind of draconian penalty, I think, just shows that we're going in the wrong direction in criminal justice. We ought to be focused more on prevention, early intervention, and rehabilitation, and not in draconian sentences for low-level offenders.
Arthur, this was called the First Step Act. Hello, that means there should be a second step?
Well, yeah,
Yes.
The first step, because it was a first step. There's a lot more we need to do. One, the First Step modified the mandatory minimums. It didn't get rid of them. That's what we really need to do. We need to get rid of all of the mandatory minimums throughout the code. You can't pick and choose which mandatory minimums there are, because if you have a mandatory sentence for violation of a code section, the judge is compelled to impose the mandatory minimum, whether that sentence makes any sense or not. Sometimes it's just an absurd the sentence is overly punitive, but he can't do anything about it. And if it violates common sense, he still has to impose that decision. I think we've selected the judges. We need to let them do their jobs. And the mandatory minimums only inject an element of absurdity to the process because sometimes they are just not appropriate. The code section you violated often does not accurately reflect the seriousness of your crime, particularly in drug offenses where conspiracies may be involved. You may have a very minor role, but if you're part of the conspiracy, you are accountable for the entire conspiracy. That's why low-level offenders are getting 5, 10, 20 years to serve for very negligible involvement in criminal activity. The judge would instantaneously recognize that as that some of the mandatory minimums that require 20 years would recognize that as absurd in this case and impose a sentence that makes sense. But the mandatory minimums, which we need to get rid of all of them, compels the judge to impose a sentence, whether it makes any sense or not.
Arthur, isn't this, again, first of all, this goes back to the problem of having a disparity in crack cocaine and powder cocaine, and this needs to be repaired. And again, we kept talking about the first step, saying to Republicans, okay, what y'all going to do about a second step? And of course, Donald Trump tried his best to take credit for this, but the reality is, if it wasn't for Democrats like Congressman Bobby Scott, Congressman Hakeem Jeffries, it doesn't pass the House and even get to the Senate.
Yes, Roland, and I think that your question was a really good one concerning what to call the next step. I think that the First Step Act was actually appropriately named because what we're talking about here is just the most recent attempt to solve what amounts to a 35-year-old problem. The original sentencing disparities, which disproportionately affected Black Americans in terms of crack cocaine versus powder cocaine, were eventually revealed after the passage of the act in 1986, and we saw how severe those disparities were. The Sentencing Commission, as early as 1995, was trying to get Congress to fix this. And so they went through a series of reports that were sent to Congress, culminating in 2010 with the Fair Sentencing Act, and then finally in 2018 with the First Step Act that made the Fair Sentencing Act applicable to everybody, not just everybody going forward, but everybody who was previously sentenced under the 1986 crime bill. And so what we have is the most recent version of trying to fix this 35-year-old problem. And what the Supreme Court has done today has indicated, look, this is a problem that's out of their hands. The way that the statute was written, specifically the way that the First Step Act was written, reveals to the court, and in particular to Justice Sotomayor in her concurrence, that there is a big gap in the First Step Act. The gap is ironic. It is that the First Step Act was meant to address these disparities, and what it did was affirmatively address the folks that were effectively the ones that were the most serious violators of criminal drug laws. So the ones that were alleged to and ultimately were convicted of having large amounts of, relatively large amounts of crack cocaine. What slipped through the cracks were those who were convicted under a portion of the law that didn't require any mandatory amount of crack cocaine. In other words, and Congressman Scott is exactly right, the folks that were the least culpable, the ones that had the least amount of drugs on them, were the ones that are not eligible to benefit from this act. And so by at least Justice Sotomayor acknowledging this problem, the gap in the First Step Act is now revealed to Congress for Congress to fix. The ball is in Congress's court to make that fix and to continue on this path of correcting this 35-year-old problem.
Congressman Scott, how fast can Congress move to fix this?
Well, I think we need to be clear. He's right. It's the lowest level, and it's so low that it is not subject to the mandatory minimum. What we were correcting in the First Step Act and the Fair Sentencing Act were the problems where the judge had to impose an inappropriate mandatory minimum. This was below the mandatory minimum. Mr. Terry's sentence was high, not just because of the drug use, but because when you look at the sentencing guidelines, they consider a lot of things, including your criminal record. And he had a bad criminal record, which gave him the enhanced penalty. It wasn't the mandatory minimum that was this problem. And the First Step Act and the Fair Sentencing Act were aimed at mandatory minimums. What we didn't suspect were that there would be people sentenced because of the effect of the influence of the 100 to 1, which suggested that crack offenders needed to be sentenced much more severely than powder cocaine offenders. He got 15 and a half years, whereas maybe if it had been powder, he wouldn't have gotten as much. He ought to be able to make that case in court. So we're right, I think, that he was to be considered, but I think the court was right. Technically, he was not subject to a mandatory minimum and therefore not covered by the law. So that is something the court said, and Justice Sotomayor said very specifically that since this is a matter of statutory construction, you can change the statute and fix it.
Well, look, we look forward to that actually happening. Again, there's so much that needs to be fixed when it comes to our criminal justice system. There are too many people who are sitting in prison for long periods of time. And just makes no sense whatsoever, especially people with weed convictions, when you got people right now trying to earn billions of dollars from making where weed has been made legal. So we need
to be focused more on prevention, early intervention, and rehabilitation anyway. I think if we made more investments there, we wouldn't need to be talking about mass incarceration and other problems.
I agree 100%. Arthur Argo, Congressman Bobby Scott, gentlemen, we surely appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Roland.
Thank you. All right, folks, happening right now in Charleston, West Virginia, the Poor People's Campaign, led by Reverend Dr. William Barber, they're holding a protest there, where, of course, we could turn the volume up, where they are protesting Senator Joe Manchin, demanding that he step up and do more for poor people there. You see Reverend Barber right there with them. We're going to try to get him on the phone and see if he can talk to us live from the march. The march has been going on for the past hour and a half. It started around 5 p.m. Eastern. And so, again, you can watch the full march there on their YouTube channel as well as on their Facebook page. Again, so my folks will let me know if we're able to get Dr. Barber to come on the show. But they are trying to send the message to Joe Manchin and these are folks in West Virginia. You see that group right there. These are mostly people who are from West Virginia, a group of white folks, black folks, and others in West Virginia. You see they've got a large crowd out there. They're outside of the offices of West Virginia Senator Joe Manchin. He is the Democrat who has refused to support the For the People Act. He has refused to support a number of $15 an hour. In fact, Reverend Barber had tweeted over the weekend that they ordered that they could not have loudspeakers or even make noise near the office. But you see what they're doing is they're actually blocking off a street there. And so that's what's happening right now in Charleston, West Virginia. They made it perfectly clear they're going to continue this. We can stay on them, please. I'm going to bring my panel in. Dr. Julian Malvo, economist, president emerita at Bennett College. Dr. Omokongo Dabinga, professorial lecturer, School of International Service, American University. Michael Brown, former vice chair, DNC Finance Committee. Julian, I'm going to start with you. This is important because, as Dr. Barber said, they wanted Senator Joe Manchin to hear from West Virginians. He's always talking about West Virginians and West Virginians and him doing right by them. But if you look at the polling data, they support many of the policies of President Joe Biden that he is unwilling to step up and support.
You know, Senator Joe Manchin wants to have it both ways. On one hand, he wants to kiss Republican hind parts because his state is primarily Republican. On the other hand, he wants to get courted, if you will, by the Democrats. What we're seeing out here with these people, bless their souls, and of course, we know we love us or Reverend Barber. But what we see is them telling him, don't do this for us, do it for you. We want voting rights. We want a mandatory minimum wage. We want the things that you say you don't want. Look out your window, dude, and see your constituents. So that's what people are saying. And it's unfortunate that they have to go to this level. But on the other hand, this is the redemption of democracy. The previous 4 years under Rump were basically the destruction of democracy, and now we're seeing the redemption of democracy. Look at that crowd. Look at those white folks, black folks, other folks. These people are not willing to be racially divided.
And this right here, Michael, I mean, this is a mostly white crowd that's there in West Virginia. Reverend Barber made it clear they wanted to pull from West Virginia. Manchin's always talking about he votes according to his constituents. Well, they wanted to say, okay, here are your constituents.
Yeah, and politically, Roland, I don't understand the whole calculus of Senator Manchin anyway. I mean, it's a little bizarre. I mean, I understand it as Dr. Malmo mentioned, whose butts he's kissing and wanting to get courted by the White House. Okay, I get that, and she's right. But politically, he just won re-election. So let's say you say, you know what, I'm going to support everything that Biden wants, or certainly the big stuff, whether it's an infrastructure bill, whether it's voting rights. Of course, I'm going to mention D.C. statehood, whatever the 3 or 4 or 5 things are. He has 4 or 5 years to fix with those Republicans whose asses he's trying to kiss, to fix that. So the political calculus I don't get anyway. I don't know why you'd want to be on the bad side of a White House that's going to be in power for obviously at least 4 years. So I just don't get it unless he really is, undercover.
He's a Dino, Michael. He's a Dino. Democrat in name only.
Omakongo, what you have here, first of all, let's just be clear. If Joe Manchin, he's still a Democrat. The reality is Democrats control the Senate because it's 50-50. If he became a Republican, Mitch McConnell is Senate Majority Leader. That's one of the reasons why Democrats are dancing, tap dancing real slow around him. But this is important because they are sending the signal, okay, you keep talking about West Virginia, okay, you're going to hear from West Virginia. They're having that particular protest today. Then they're going to be here in D.C. on June 24th doing the exact same thing.
I think it's incredibly powerful. And there are 2 signs that I saw there that were really telling. One said, which side are you on? And we spoke a little bit to that. But the other one that a white woman was just wearing, it said, let us vote. It wasn't let black and brown people vote, it's let us vote. These West Virginians see that the policies that the Republicans are seeking to put in place are also going to harm them. They realize that when you come for one, you're coming for everybody. And I think that is very powerful to have this multiracial movement out there. And Reverend Barber, with his genius work and his tireless work, is showing that, again, there's a multiracial movement to make sure that this democracy is maintained. And so, yes, he'll stay a Democrat and make sure Mitch McConnell doesn't get in power, but we need much more. He talks a good game about what he's for, but he doesn't show it. When you look at what Cory Booker's doing as it relates to prison reform, he's actively fighting, putting things forward, putting papers forward. Manchin does none of that. Like Dr. Malvo said, he wants to be courted. He was mad when Kamala Harris came there early on in their term because no one, quote unquote, called him first. We got to get past that. He needs to start putting some stuff on the table, and I'm so happy that West Virginians are putting this pressure on them, and I stand with them 100%.
We're going to stay on this here. We're going to talk about what's happening, what we discussed off the top, Michael, and that Supreme Court decision unanimous, conservatives and liberals. What that means is Congress, fix it, fix the problem.
I mean, I think, as Congressman Scott mentioned, that the decision was technically correct, and that the legislative body has to fix the statute. The problem is, as every problem we have in the country now, are the folks on the right going to do anything that helps level the playing field for, I know what they presume of people of color, but there are other people in jail besides just black and brown people. But nonetheless, that's the daunting political. I mean, keep in mind, obviously grateful that the First Step Act was passed in the first place, as it was the First Step Act. And I think folks, Congressman Scott and Congressman Jeffries, got what they could, knowing that the Trump administration was only going to do and support so much, and that obviously Republicans on the other side of the hill didn't want to support anything in particular, because as you and I've talked about, Roland, I mean, I get criminal justice reform, but until you deal with mandatory sentencing, mandatory minimums, first step, second step, third step, none of that. I mean, yes, pieces matter, but that's the biggest piece. That's the thing that matters the most. That means with somebody with a little dime bag of weed may not go to prison at all. Forget 10 or 15 years, and that's what has to be fixed. That's the Super Bowl of criminal justice reform.
Well, obviously, but that Omakongo impacts people who are going through it now. But there are people who have already been impacted, who are sitting in jail, who frankly have been there for far too long.
Absolutely. And Congress does need to act on this. Before Trump came in, we actually saw that there were some on the Republican side who were actually starting to have conversations with Democrats after reading books like Michelle Alexander's The New Jim Crow. And, they were focused more on the cost side of prison. They weren't really concerned about lives, but they were seeing about the economic impact of what happens when you keep so many people in prison for so long. And then Trump came in and just smash that. And so really at the end of the day, we have people who are rotting away in these prisons who've been exposed under the pandemic and have suffered for that, for these small possessions of any types of drugs and the like. And when we're talking about weed, and you talked about this earlier as it relates to people who are coming in taking advantage of this economically, now this is a multi-billion-dollar business. We need to make sure that we are talking about a restorative system, and we can't have people rotting away for the rest of their lives who can still be productive members of society. And we need to keep the pressure on Congress to make sure that they make those changes that Justice Sotomayor mentioned.
That's the thing here, Julian, that, what we're all of these things, whether we're talking about health care, voting rights, criminal justice reform, the people are demanding elected officials, frankly, do more to fix these problems. All too often, in many of these cases, Republicans are opposing these efforts, which is why people are demanding Democrats use their power.
Absolutely, Roland. The situation is dire for so many people. We have not seen the minimum wage increase for more than a decade because, again, of Republican obsequience. They refuse to deal with this issue. So we have not seen the minimum wage rise. We have not seen health care for all. And with the decriminalization of marijuana, I just came back from California where I was able to indulge in a few gummies. And you can just walk in the store and get marijuana. I mean, you don't have to have a medical card or anything. You have to leave your name, but you don't have to do anything like that. So when you look at something like that and look at the variation across the country, there are people who are like smoking their behinds off, and there are people who are basically suffering. And so one of the things with medical marijuana, however, that I noticed is that the beneficiaries tend to be melanin deficient, if you will. In other words, we may have set this industry up. We certainly use weed as frequently as other people do. But guess what? We're not benefiting from it economically. So there's a lot of work to be done. And Justice Sotomayor, of course, is a brilliant woman who basically is saying, don't pass the buck to the Supreme Court. Congress, you fix it. And that's what needs to happen.
Absolutely. And so we are, again, folks, what you're watching right now is the Poor People's Campaign is March live there in Charleston, West Virginia. You're seeing there to our control room. We're trying to reach Mark Thompson. Of course, we'll make it plain. Folks, if y'all could hit Barbara Arnwine. We just saw Barbara. She's marching as well. I mean, you see, that's a pretty good crowd of marchers out there in Charleston, West Virginia. They're there to try to get the attention of West Virginia Senator Joe Manchin. This started at 5 o'clock. And so, they want the message to go out. And so we are, of course, always in support of what Reverend Dr. Barber and the Poor People's Campaign is doing. Their goal is simple. That is to put together a multiracial coalition of folks addressing the issues of the poor. And so that's one of the things that you're seeing with this particular march that's taking place out there. We're going to continue to watch this. We're going to try to, again, go live there, trying to reach Barbara Arnwine or Mark Thompson or Reverend Dr. Barber from West Virginia. Let's talk about folks in Maryland where white police officers tased a black teen for vaping on the boardwalk. This video went viral over the weekend. Watch this.
You resisting. I'm not resisting. You can tell me what you arrested me for. Take your knee, nigga. Stop. Get out. What's wrong with you? Back up!
It happened last year too.
Back up! Y'all did that for a vape, bro.
Y'all did that for no reason.
For a vape.
Call your mom.
That's the weirdest stuff ever. Bro, what the fuck? For no reason. Bro, put him in handcuffs for a vape.
He was literally standing there. He wasn't arresting or he wasn't nothing.
Yeah.
He was.
Folks, you saw there where the Ocean City cops tased 19-year-old Brian Everett Anderson, which is crazy. You saw those two videos. They were kneeling on him on the ground. And folks, there's a ban on vaping on the boardwalk. Ocean City officials are pledging to review the officers' actions. However, they released a statement in part saying, quote, our officers are permitted to use force per their training to overcome exhibited resistance. Including Anderson, two other teens were charged with disorderly conduct. A fourth was charged with interfering with an arrest. Okay, let's go back to the first video, okay? The first video. Now, play the first video, please. Come on, folks. Hold it. Stop. Pause it. Pause the video. Now, this is the statement from Ocean City. Quote, our officers are permitted to use force per their training to overcome exhibited resistance. I'm sorry, folks. This is literally, I want you to go back to the beginning of the video, okay? This is the video of this young man right here. Now you see it right here. Hands are up, okay? He's not. Now, we're gonna play the video. You don't hear him cussing the cops out. So I'm trying to understand exactly where's the resistance. Press play.
Chill. Stop. Get out. What's wrong with you? Back up!
It happened last year too.
Back up! Y'all did that for a vape, bro.
Y'all did that for no reason.
For a vape.
Call your mom.
That's the weirdest stuff ever. Bro, what the fuck? For no reason. Bro, put him in handcuffs for a vape.
He was literally standing there. He wasn't arresting or he wasn't nothing.
Yeah.
He was.
All right, play the second video, please. The second video. Now, you can see them, they're kneeling on him. Now, this is after they'd already tased him. Now they're kneeing him. Now he's driving his knee into him. Congo, I'm just trying to understand here. What the hell?
That sounds like the right terminology to be using. I mean, he's kneeing him as he's telling him to stop resisting and to show his hands or something to the like. I don't know if anyone has ever been in any type of martial combat or fighting situations. I have. Your hands aren't going up while somebody's kneeing you 5 times. And this goes back to something Dr. Malveaux talked about last week when we were talking about George Floyd, which I just never forgot about how these cameras and these killings have not stopped given everything that has happened with Floyd and the Chauvin case. As a matter of fact, it's almost as if these officers are becoming more emboldened and not caring. But something with the second video of the guy kneeing him, this is something that the cops need to really start paying attention to. I believe it's only a matter of time before some folks in these crowds start to turn on these police because people are tired, they've had it, and we're seeing it far too many times. And again, these are just the incidents that are being caught. And that particular crowd, they were pissed off. And so if they want to have real community relations, real policing, they need to double check their training, double check what they talk about as it relates to this thing called exhibited resistance. And they really need to make sure that they have officers who really know how to work with this community, because sooner or later, folks are going to start turning on these guys.
Look, I guarantee you the lawyers are getting ready, Michael. I mean, you're vaping on the boardwalk. I mean, seriously. I mean, we're not talking about you're committing this major damn crime. Seriously? Like, it requires you tasing someone for vaping on the boardwalk.
Before I get into sounding like a broken record, Roland, that you and I have talked about before, I mean, where's the de-escalation? I mean, folks are obviously walking on the boardwalk. That's what it's for. It's a social environment. I have no idea if there even is a law against vaping, but that's not even the point. Where's the de-escalation? Where's the, hey man, you can't smoke, you can't vape right here. If you can go down the street where it's legal, or whatever he or she would say. But it gets to always these confrontational, adversarial situations, and clearly it's mostly with black and brown people. But here's where I'll sound like the broken record. Until you put pensions on the table with the police union and qualified immunity, we're going to continue to see this, whether it's like that, whether it's being tased, whether it's gunshots, whether it's illegal holds, whether it's knees on necks, whatever it is. They know that their pensions are protected as long as they say that they were in danger, and obviously same with qualified immunity. Until those two things are dealt with, I think, Roland, we're going to see a lot more of these videos, unfortunately.
Absolutely. The thing here, Julian, again, when you sit here and you look at these actions, you just go, really? I mean, vaping. Now, the video we're showing right now, this was one of the teens who was pushing with the cops, and then it got taken down. But, I mean, this is just, you're vaping on the boardwalk. I'm sorry. That's not enough to tase somebody, especially a guy who's sitting there quiet. I mean, look at it. He's hands up. He's like, I would love to know if those officers look like they were wearing body cameras. I would love to see the body camera footage of what precipitated all of this to cause him to say, yeah, let's pull the taser out.
First of all, the fact that the young man was vaping, they did pass a law in Ocean City about vaping, which is a stupid law. They want to pass a law. Why would they pass about white folks drinking white wine on the boardwalk? You want to pass a law. So the law in and of itself, frankly, I think is stupid. But secondly, the number of officers for this one young man has to be considered excessive. I mean, what is it, 5 of them, 6 of them? And that's the third time four times he's kneed him. Roland, I don't even have words. Michael Brown is absolutely right here. Put their behinds on the line, put their pensions on the line, put their assets on the line, and their asses on the line, and maybe they will behave differently. This breaks my heart because, first of all, this is a law that's targeted towards young people. So these are now a group of embittered young people who, regardless of race, don't think that vaping is that big of a deal. Then you see the white folks, and some of them are going to turn. But Brother Obakongo is absolutely right. People going to have enough of these fools one of these days. Look at how close that white woman is in that video you just showed to that white woman police officer. They ain't scared. They are basically saying we have to fight back. And so that's what has to happen. But, the Republican Party is so emboldened, and the police are so emboldened, that it's going to take a revolution to get this to change.
And there are folks who, of course, trying to lead the revolution as we speak. All right, folks, got to go to a break. We come back. Essence Festival is virtual this year. We're going to have our Coca-Cola Essence Fest moment, throwback moment for you to check out. Also on today's show, a couple of crazy-ass white people. Unbelievable, y'all. Y'all don't want to miss this video. Trust me. One, San Francisco, dude got really checked by a brother who's a delivery man. And a woman in a Ross dress for less just loses her mind. Has she lost her job yet? Yeah, all that and more next on Roland Martin Unfiltered.
I believe that people our age have lost the ability to focus the discipline on the art of organizing.
The challenges, there's so many of them and they're complex, and we need to be moving to address them. But I'm able to say, watch out, Tiffany, I know this road.
That is so freaking dope.
Racial injustice is a scourge on this nation, and the Black community has felt it for generations. We have an obligation to do something about it. Whether it's canceling student debt, increasing the minimum wage, or investing in Black-owned businesses, the Black community deserves so much better. I'm Nina Turner, and I'm running for Congress to do something about it.
George Floyd's death hopefully put another nail in the coffin of racism.
You talk about awakening America. It led to a historic summer of protest.
I hope our younger generation don't ever forget that nonviolence is soul force.
Priceless.
What's up, y'all? I'm Will Packer.
I'm Chrisette Michelle.
Hi, I'm Chaley Rose, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Everything and nothing at the same time.
You looking great.
Thank you.
What is it about all these Black folks at Essence that's just so different and special?
And think what?
What's so special about and unique with all the Black folks, the Black love here at Essence?
That is fun. That is fun. That is all Black love. That's what's significant and different about it. You know, it's pure.
And then, of course, you got all the sisters.
Sorry?
Then, of course, you got all the sisters as well.
Exactly. And brothers.
Oh, yeah. Things going well for you?
It's going real well for me. God's been real good to me. Still being good to me. I'm just doing what I got to do.
It's always good seeing you.
Well, thank you so much. I love this.
We got to mix it up a little bit.
I feel you, baby.
If you ain't regular, you can't have regular pockets. I'll see you down. I'll see you.
All right, folks, each and every single day here on Roland Martin Unfiltered, we're going to feature that Essence Festival Coca-Cola throwback moment leading up to, of course, this year's 2021 virtual Essence Festival. Because of COVID, they're not having the big gathering in New Orleans, but they will be virtual. And so on June 26th and June 27th, two weekends, June 26th, June 27th, July 3rd, July 4th. Essence Festival will be virtual. You can simply go to their YouTube channel, the Facebook page, and go to essence.com to actually watch it. You're going to have the workshops in the daytimes beginning at 2 p.m. And then, of course, the concerts beginning at 6 p.m. Eastern every single night, going until 10 p.m. And so we look forward to sharing with you some of our throwback moments. That, of course, was Shaka Khan from the 2016 Essence Festival. So we've got some great stuff dipping into my archives to show you. And we're going to do that every single day right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered. And we're going to be sharing photos on my social media. So go to Instagram, go to Facebook and Twitter, Snapchat. You'll be able to see those throwback moments as well. And so we're going to also, we're going to give you guys an email to share some of your Essence Festival throwback photos and video that we're going to be sharing with the audience. And we certainly look forward to doing that. All right, folks, let's talk about this story out of South Georgia, where a city there has agreed to pay a black man $350,000 for an excessive force case caught on police body cameras. Folks, remember this story? Valdosta City Council, out of Valdosta. The City Council voted unanimously on the settlement, which includes creating a citizens review board. Police officers wrongly identified Antonio Smith as a suspect on February 8, 2020. Roll it, please. Body cam footage shows Smith being body slammed to the ground, breaking his wrist. Now, Smith and his attorneys sued the mayor and the police chief and 2 officers, and he was asking for $700,000. The settlement, however, terminates the existing lawsuit and releases all claims against the city of Valdosta and the officers in the case. And again, y'all might remember this video where we showed you last year. Brother was just walking down the street. Brother's just walking down the street, just chilling. And all of a sudden, the cop rose up against him. The cop rose up against him. And then all of a sudden, they tackle this brother, throw him to the ground. And I remember, Julian, when we showed this video, we all said, he gonna get paid. He's gonna get paid. Watch it happen. He's gonna get paid. Turn the audio up to listen to the conversation and watch what happens.
Oh my God!
Put your hands behind your
doing?
back. Put your hands behind your back like you told. Put your hands.
What are you doing? Oh, Jesus. Oh my God. Oh, please. I wasn't doing anything. Oh my God. Jesus. Oh my God. You broke my wrist. Oh my God.
Stop.
You broke my wrist. Oh my God.
Yeah, he might be broke.
Oh Jesus. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God.
Relax.
Oh my God.
Relax.
Oh my God. Oh Jesus. Oh, was hurt.
Yep.
Oh my God.
Yep. Hold on. Relax. We're gonna get you squared up.
Oh God.
You hear that pain there, Julian? Again, this is why you got to target the pensions, because them getting the wrong guy has now cost taxpayers $350,000. That brother is writhing in pain, saying they broke his wrist, and they did, and it's stupid. I mean, this is just how idiotic these folks are.
What happened to effing civility? Sir, can I see your ID? There was a mistaken, they thought he was somebody else. Sir, can I see your ID? You know, not just jumping on the man, breaking his wrist, having him in that kind of pain. Civility has left policing for a number of police officers, not all, but for many. It has left policing. They treat us, especially black folks, but others, as less than human beings. None of them would have liked to be in that position, not a one of them. And so why would they do this? Answer, because they could. And now the citizens are paying $350,000. And these guys basically, I assume they're all still employed because they tend to keep the abusers on. But I mean, they need to be up under somebody's jail. Somebody needs to walk up on them and snap their wrist. I'm in a vengeful mood today.
It's just crazy, Michael. And I'm telling you, I remember when we showed this video and we were like, yeah, he's gonna get paid.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just, you know, it's just unfortunate. I mean, as Dr. Malvo says, she's exactly right. There's nothing wrong with the police coming up to you. I mean, some people think it's wrong even for them to ask for ID, but nonetheless, hey, they're searching for an alleged criminal. It's fine to say, hey, can I see your ID? But it's just, again, it's just being done with impunity now. It doesn't matter. Okay, so the city has to write a check. But I don't like black people, and he looked similar to me, and I was in danger or whatever their excuse is. And they threw him to the ground, broke his wrist, and now the citizens pay. He's keeping his job. Boy, but it certainly would be different if he had to write that check or he had to sell his house to satisfy that settlement.
Hello.
Things would be a little different.
I agree. And Omekongo there in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, almost 5 years after Alton Sterling was shot and killed by Baton Rouge police, his children will receive a $4.5 million settlement, ending their wrongful death lawsuit against the city. Sterling's 5 children will receive $1 million up front, with the remaining paid in equal installments over the next 4 years. The white officer, Blaine Salamone, who shot Sterling outside a convenience store in 2016, was never criminally charged in the incident. But again, the city is having to pay taxpayers $4.5 million because of the wrongful actions of these police officers. Trust me, when they start having to pay themselves, things will change.
Absolutely, and that's why a lot of the work that Johnny Cochran was doing, God rest his soul, was so powerful, because he was going after them directly like that, because he knew, as Joe Madison says, he hit people in their pocketbooks and their hearts would follow. Look, when we look at that $350,000 settlement, and we're talking about these review boards, they need to make sure that they're looking into the history of all of these officers before there are even any incidents. Because I remember a story a teacher once said. She went down to the precinct once and she saw so many of her former students, and she said, I never saw any of the students who were bullies. I saw officers who were my students who were bullied. These guys are coming in on power trips, thinking that they're big and bad, that they got all the authority in the world, and they don't care. And as long as we continue to dole out the money for them, look, $4.5 million for the family of Alton Sterling. How many graduations are going to be missed because he's not there? How many of those kids are not going to have their parents at the wedding? 5 of his children. Our lives matter. And at the end of the day, they can't keep throwing money away at this. And on top of that, let's also talk about the fact that those officers are not facing any charges, including federal charges, for the killing of Alton Sterling. So we have that financial issue that's just never going to be enough to replace a black life. We have these issues of these review boards that need to dig in deeply into the histories of these officers. And then we have to remember, at the end of the day, these officers are not only getting away without financial penalty, but they're also not being charged criminally in a state level or at the federal level. The system's got to change.
Roland, real quickly, if I might, Roland. The other thing is, those police officers do not live in the cities. Most of them do not live in the cities where they're police officers. So their tax dollars are not even going for these settlements. But increasingly, I mean, the police unions have gone to the Supreme Court to say it's illegal to force police officers to live in the cities that they police, but we have to change that too. Because if they live there, they're going to have to pay at least their portion of the tax bill.
I want to do this here, folks. I want to go to, give me OCPD. So I'm going to go back to the Ocean City story because they posted this information on their Twitter feed a little bit ago. Give me 1 second. I want to pull this up. This is what they say. The information associated with the video describing a juvenile being tased for vaping is inaccurate. The video is from June 6 during an arrest of an 18-year-old male. Officers stopped the adult male because he was violating the city's smoking ordinance. They then say when stopped, he became disorderly and began yelling at officers and threatening to kill them. At that time, officers drew their conducted electrical weapons. He continued to make threats on officers, spit on them, and resist arrest. Officers also located a switchblade knife in his book bag. He was arrested for multiple charges, including assault, disorderly conduct, and resisting arrest. He was held on bond in the amount of $3,000. Well, here's the thing then, Ocean City. Release the body cam footage.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There you go.
This is real simple. Release the body cam footage. Release all of the body cam footage, so we see the beginning of the incident, to see why that young man was tased, and then we saw the other video of folks being taken down. So this is just real simple. Release the video. Release the body cam footage. See, this is where the body cam, I keep telling everybody why the body cam footage matters. If the body cam footage exonerates you, then it does. But if it doesn't,
then it doesn't.
Then y'all got a problem. Okay? All right, folks. Let's go to North Carolina. First of all, this week is a Juneteenth. Saturday marks Juneteenth. Of course, that is the day that people of African descent who were enslaved found out that they were actually free. 2 years after the Emancipation Proclamation had been signed. General Granger came on the shores of Galveston to deliver that particular news. Texas became the first state to actually make Juneteenth a national holiday. It is now spread all across the country. All week we're going to be sharing with you various stories tied to Juneteenth. So when you see this, you know what's coming up. But some folks did not quite understand. In North Carolina, a history museum is under heavy criticism for the racist description of an event it planned to host on Juneteenth. Lot of plantation. Okay, right there. If your ass got a plantation and you're calling the plantation, my suggestion, don't you sponsor shit on Juneteenth. Well, Lot of Plantation promoted a $25 event called Kingdom Coming, promising to tell attendees the story of, quote, white refugees. The event description read, "Swing low, sweet chariot, coming to carry me home. Come out to historic Lot Plantation for a one-night event, Saturday, June 9th, 2021. You will hear stories from the massa himself, who is now living in the woods. Federal troops, Yankees, have him on the run, and his former bondsmen have occupied his home and now living high on the hog. Hear how they feel about being freedmen. The overseer is now out of a job. What will he do now that he has no one to oversee from can't see? Which white refugees have been displaced and have a story to tell as well? Confederate soldiers who will be heading home express their feelings about the downfall of the Confederacy. Reservations can be made for this guided experience starting at 7 p.m., 7:30, 8, 8:30, 9 p.m. Okay? Space is limited to 20 people per time slot. The tour is over rough terrain and is not recommended for people with mobility issues. Well, Mecklenburg, well, let's just say, y'all, when that thing went around, didn't go over well. The event has since been canceled. Mecklenburg County released this statement regarding the incident. It says, quote, Mecklenburg County has zero tolerance for programs that do not embrace equity and diversity. Park and Recreation was not aware of the planned event and Lot of Plant Nature Preserve until it appeared on social media. We immediately reached out to the organizers and the event was canceled. As a result of this incident, Mecklenburg County is looking at its contract with the facility vendor regarding future programming. I'm proud to say, Congo, they about to lose their job. They about to lose their job.
As well they should. I mean, goodness gracious. These guys will do anything to try to minimize and deny the history of slavery in this country. We see them doing it in the textbooks. We see them doing it on the job. I saw an interview where this one woman was saying, oh, slavery wasn't that bad. You know, mama taking care of all of the slaves like she would her children. They are going to do this at every juncture possible. And thank goodness for social media so we can call these people out where they're doing it on the job in their community centers and quote unquote plantations. For real in 2021? Yo, I just think that this is amazing. And I really commend the city for taking the steps that it did because they really need to demonstrate that zero tolerance. But these guys are just going to try to do something else. They're probably going to start a GoFundMe campaign, do some type of virtual event. That's how bad they want to get out their story about their ignorance. It's ridiculous.
Again, if it's set at a plantation already, Julian, we got a problem.
Absolutely. I mean, Roland, don't make me laugh. The only thing I will say, you may have heard my news, I'm going to be the Dean of the College of Ethnic Studies at Cal State LA, starting July 1st. And this is why. Because we need information in our schools. Thanks to Secretary of State Shirley Weber, all students who go to a Cal State must take at least one ethnic studies class. I will have the Departments of Pan-African Studies, Chicano Latinx Studies, and Asian American Studies reporting to me with a charge to start a new department of Native American Studies. But the fact is that, I mean, I took the gig. I love Washington. I love my house. But this was like a serious challenge. How do we infuse this knowledge into the general population? And the fact is, a lot of people just don't want to know it. I sat last week in my mother's house where this white man who's her friend told me that enslavement was not that bad. Because we got fed, we got clothes. Excuse me? And only because it was my mother's house, and I am respectful to my mother, did I not call him all of the names that I want to call him. I'm just like, however you feel, sir, just however you feel. Just please don't articulate that around us anymore. But this is a movement to take history back. This is a movement to say enslavement didn't happen, or if it happened, it wasn't that bad. It's a movement to erase the post-Reconstruction period where Black people gained so much. And so this is a fight. This is a fight, and we've got to fight it.
Michael, these folks have lost their mind, but that's why, you know what? We got to just shut them down. Shut them down at every turn.
Absolutely, and I'm glad you run these videos, and so people can see, kind of what it's like out there. Folks hear about stuff, but your show obviously gives it the time it deserves. But there's been a tone that's been said, and me, I have no love lost between me and 45, but the tone was there was a tone before him. But he's really elevated it relative to divisions and white supremacy and the history of our country and what happened. The reason why, obviously, whether it's Wall Street, whether it's insurance companies, as we know, all that started because of the slave trade. And obviously moving through not just building of our country for free in some parts of the country, but obviously some of our monuments and memorials built for free. And so there's just folks, there are folks that don't, if they do know that that's true, don't want to acknowledge it. And for the folks that want to raise, like Dr. Malveaux is going to be doing out west, are folks that want to raise the levels of awareness about our history. In some cases, and I'm glad California is not one of those places, but in some cases where there's the 1619 Project, where they won't even let people talk about Black history. So we're just in a place, it's just very difficult and very unfortunate.
Absolutely are, folks. Reverend Dr. James Forbes, he wanted to honor Juneteenth, and he decided to put together this poem. He gave me a call, and he said, I got this. What can I do with it? I said, record it, brother. And so my alpha brother did. So check this out.
A Juneteenth meditation, recalling the day General Granger delivered his Order Number 3 in Galveston, Texas, indicating that all slaves are free. This declaration was made 2.5 years after President Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation in 1863. On June 19, 1865, now referred to as Juneteenth, that was the first day all Americans were free. So I've written a poem, All Americans Together. I'd like to share it with you now. Newly freed slaves were ecstatic on that great day. They thanked God for liberty despite the delay. God said, though you are free from chains of slavery, you're still captives of murderous bigotry. Slave owners were grieving for their lost property, people they had whipped and lynched from many a tree. Though African slaves from bondage were now set free, slaveholders were still slaves to white supremacy. God spoke to those called white down from heaven on high. Your tribe has been disgraced by a demonizing lie. As slavery ends, so must each barbaric crime. Repent, repair, accept forgiveness while there's still time. From whence that vile delusion came, it has to go. Never forget, you shall surely reap what you sow. The true abundance your soul so dearly craves can't be found if fear and falsehood make you slaves. While the Spirit spreads truth and love across the land, depraved sick minds suppress justice on every hand. We must decide the convictions we will embrace regarding the shameful brutalities of race. If it matters to you to have truth on your side, racism in this nation cannot be denied. From its beginning, this country was not for all. before it was founded, there had been a great fall when all of God's children can finally breathe free. We can celebrate being a true democracy. Imagine the joy and delight we will share when we recover the oneness already there. Now let us prepare for a benediction for going forth to make this a better world. Go forth in the name of the Lord to spread glad tidings abroad. The love that you share and the witness you bear will bring honor and glory to God. Go forth with a joyful amen until we gather again. Remember the word your spirit has heard. God's love is the hope of the world. Amen.
We surely appreciate that by Reverend Dr. James Forbes. And so all week we're going to be, of course, having a segment dedicated to Juneteenth. And so we look forward to sharing that. Juneteenth is the only holiday that officially that actually speaks to slavery ending in this country. And, you know, I mean, look, the people always made jokes, Julian, of us native Texans. Oh, I mean, y'all found out 2 years late. But it was the late Representative Al Edwards, who was called the father of Juneteenth, who led that effort to make Juneteenth a state holiday. And since that effort, Juneteenth is actually spread all across America, and there are Juneteenth celebrations happening all across this country. And we were that close last year to actually making Juneteenth a national holiday, but it was that ignorant damn fool out of Wisconsin, Senator Ron Johnson, who objected. And so that still needs to happen because this nation needs to have a day where it acknowledges what took place with slavery in this country.
More important in terms of collective knowledge than having Juneteenth as a national holiday, because it would then require folks, whether they are in Idaho, Mississippi, Oregon, or wherever, require folks to think about what enslavement meant to this country. It would require folks to put together curricula around or programs around Juneteenth. People would get a day off, and you know how Americans are about that day off. People get a day off, so why do we have the day off? So, I mean, I hope that members of Congress are putting this very high on their list of priorities. Of course, we have other priorities. We have H.R. 40 reparations now. We have a number of other things, but this really ought to be there, and it ought to be a very easy pass, at least in the House. I don't know about the Senate, but here's what we do know. When you think about Juneteenth, what I tell young people is that you have to think of Black Americans as philanthropists. We were not people who had our hands out and our mouths open looking for handouts. We were people who built this country for free. Excuse my ebonics, but for free. And so given that we did that, we need recognition for that. Reparations is one thing, and very important, but the knowledge piece is also the really important thing. And so if we had a national holiday, Roland, I will be in fool's heaven with a blanket. You will see me churning out stuff from Cal State LA about how the program needs to look. I'll be bugging you and everybody else. This needs to happen.
You know, there are people who, Omakongo, who will say, well, here's another useless event. No, it's not useless in that if it forces this country to deal with its history. We say it's our history. No, it's American history.
That's right. That's right. And as Dr. Mabul talked about this collective conscience, we have to, well, first of all, that poem was amazing. And I was thinking about writing a poem myself, but I couldn't say anything better. That was so powerful. And as a message coming from our elders down to the rest of us, when I see your program, We Got Next, honoring the next generation, we have to make sure that we continue that fight. And going back to this conversation as it relates to Juneteenth, when we talk about this collective consciousness, a holiday, looking at the work Dr. Malv was doing at Cal State. We have to fight to make sure that we get this recognition, because we see what's happening in lieu of that. I remember just a couple of years ago where a history textbook coming out of Texas, where most of these textbooks come out of, referred to enslaved people as migrant workers, which makes me think about going back to the early 1900s, where one book referred to it as a peculiar institution, or the late 1800s. So if we don't actively fight to make sure that our story and history is remembered, we are going to have it be destroyed and lost. And that is what they want. And so every single day we have to remember that we represent the dream of our ancestors, and we have to make sure this country never forgets it and honors it.
Michael?
Agreed. I mean, I agree with both of my fellow panelists on this particular subject. I mean, I don't know if it was Senator Johnson or which senator it was that made this comment that, oh, well, if we give Juneteenth this holiday, so do we have to give one for Latinos? Do we have to give one for the GLBT community? Do we have to give? And he did this like litany of like, and to me, my first thought was, but why is that a problem? We're a melting pot. That's who we are as Americans. So what if we're recognizing different ethnicity groups? I'm not suggesting I said this to him. I didn't, but I remember when he said it. That's what I was thinking. And that's where we are, where the soon-to-be minority of this country, which is now the majority, has a problem with the browning of America. That's just all this is about. And the browning of America is a problem for many people in power. And as long as they're still in power, because you go to the ballot box and you can vote people in or out, hence why they want to make it tough for people to vote. I mean, that's why, obviously, they packed the court. So even if elected officials change over the next 5-10 years and get browner, you have the Supreme Court there to block anything that they do anyway. I mean, they have executed, have executed their plan. I don't want to say to perfection, because we can still fix it by voting people out. But obviously some of those Supreme Court folks are going to be there for the next 4 decades. So we have some challenges, and that's where the ballot box is where it lies.
That's why folks here right now in Charleston, West Virginia, they are protesting. There, Senator Joe Manchin. Let's go live to Charleston, West Virginia. Let's hear what they have to say.
Run for office. Register people to vote. Make sure they know their rights. Come on, West Virginia. Kentucky stands with you. Go, West Virginia! No justice, no justice, no peace. No justice, no peace. Justice, no
How things have been going there in Charleston, West Virginia. Okay, we thought we had Barbara there, so Barbara, certainly let us know. Let me know when we have Barbara there. Folks, let's go to this story. Next story. Research shows that nearly all hospitalized COVID patients, folks, nearly all of them are not vaccinated. This trend is occurring in hospitals throughout the country because of COVID-19 vaccines. The number of hospitalizations has decreased from more than 125,000 in early January to 15,000. Joining us right now is Dr. Ebony Jade Hilton, Associate Professor, Anesthesiology and Critical Care Medicine, University of Virginia. Doc, Ebony, glad to have you back. Look, I crack up laughing when I see your Twitter feed. You like, damn it, these folks don't want to pay attention.
Yeah. They don't want to learn. I mean, honestly, it's one of these things where what my greatest fear is, because people are not getting vaccinated, we're going to end up having a pandemic within a pandemic. And what do I mean by that? If we look at the UK right now, what we're seeing is that this Delta variant that originally was kind of isolated in India is now spread throughout our globe, as all other mutants have done. And we're seeing that 90% of their cases now is this Delta variant. And even 30% of those, of the persons who've died, 30% of those were fully vaccinated, because these mutants will eventually try to outsmart our vaccines if we're not careful. And the way we stop mutants from being able to develop is to have everyone vaccinated so the virus can stop spreading from person to person. So here we are.
You know, I saw one study, it's upwards of 30% of Republicans say they're not going to take the vaccine no matter what. You got these NFL players who are saying this here. You got some NBA players. People have asked LeBron James about it. They don't want to answer the whole question. Look, obviously it's up to the people if they decide to take the vaccine or not. But the bottom line is this here. Like you take even the golfer who tested positive, and he had to withdraw after the third round. He was leading by 6 shots. Yeah. Well, he didn't get vaccinated until after he came in contact with somebody. If he had actually gotten vaccinated, they would have never even tested him. Would have been no contact tracing. He could so that decision cost him $1.3 million. Cost him $1.3 million.
Right.
I'm sorry. It cost him $1.67 million had he won.
Right. It was $1.6 million. I looked it up.
Yeah, of course, because he was playing there in your home state of South Carolina.
Yes, he was. And the thing is that it's the selfishness of this. How do you say it? This defiance of trusting science in this matter. Because yes, he lost $1.6 million, but could have potentially infected how many people that showed up to that golfing event. And then those persons then go from, they travel to Charleston in order to see this game, and then they go back to their towns and their cities. And this is how pandemics continue to spread. And what we're seeing is that our patients in the hospital are younger and younger and younger. We have vaccinated over 60 to 70% of our 65 and older population. Those persons are staying pretty safe at this point. It's the 50-year-olds and below that we really are starting to see an uptick in those who are hospitalized, including our children, and it's just not worth it.
Well, and what gets me is, the folks are being hard-headed, and you got the people out here, these anti-vaxxers, they spread stuff. Oh, my goodness, no, it's going to kill you, and all different things along those lines. Well, I can tell you right now, there are still people who are dying from COVID.
Oh, for sure. Last week, someone asked me on Twitter why I was quiet, and it was because I was covering the ICU. And when I go into ICU, I kind of shut down so I can focus on my patients. And unfortunately, in my ICU right now, the youngest patient I have that is literally pushing, trying to stay alive, are in their younger 20s. I'm about to hit 40 years old next year, and I'm thinking when I was in my younger 20s, I was in med school. I was thinking about life and what life could be. And this person is literally struggling to try to stay alive. And it doesn't have to be you. Everyone thinks it won't be me, right? Everyone thinks it's going to be the next person, or, oh, it's only the old people, or only the sick people. These people were completely fine, and then they met COVID, and COVID does not care. And so when you're trying to weigh risk benefits, and especially with the weather getting nice, I know everyone wants to go out and travel. Everyone wants to go, have cookouts, and the 4th of July is about to come up. If you have not been vaccinated, stay at home. It is not worth the risk.
So how do we deal? Okay, so how do we deal with this here? Because the CDC issued their guidelines saying that if you've been vaccinated, no problem for you to go out about doing your things. But there are those who say, yeah, but what about wearing masks? You don't know around you who has been vaccinated or not. So what is your advice?
Right, and what I challenge, I've gone back and forth with the CDC on a number of different issues, but what I push them to say is, what's your definition of sick? Because what we know is that there are breakthrough cases of COVID-19, and although if you're vaccinated, you're less likely to die, you can still be, like my patients that's in the ICU, they're not dead, right? So they are technically in that we didn't die group, but yet they are waiting at the age of 20s, waiting for a lung transplant, that they'll have to be on agents to keep their body from rejecting this new organ. If they get one, if they can actually be healthy enough to deserve a lung transplant, and they will have been, quote unquote, a survivor of COVID. We know that there's people who have long hauler symptoms where they cannot taste or smell. And we're wondering if that means that the virus has infected your brain cells. What does that do to your development of Alzheimer's at an early age, multiple sclerosis, Parkinson's? We don't know. For people, we're seeing these accounts of this myocarditis, and we're hearing it a lot with what about these vaccines causing myocarditis? Well, we're seeing only this for the younger kids that have been vaccinated. If you look at people who have COVID-19, we're looking at that number jump upwards of 1 out of every 6 persons having blood clots, for instance, with COVID infections. We're looking at 1 in every 20 or so are presenting with these signs and symptoms of chest pain. And what is that chest pain if it's not one of those myocarditis or inflammation of the lungs? And what does that do to your development of heart failure at a younger age? What does that do to your development of needing to wear oxygen when you're 50, 60 years old because of the scarring that has already happened in your life? We don't know. And so why is it worth going out and saying, oh, I only had loss of taste and smell? Okay, well, when you get to 40 and 50 and you're struggling to be able to think clearly because of the scarring that this could potentially have on your brain, was that party worth it? And that's what people have to think. We can't think so short-sighted. You have to think, what does my life look like? And right now, people are just being reckless.
So what you're saying is that even if you've been vaccinated and you've been around a bunch of other people, put a mask on.
What I'm saying is I have a friend who I know has followed protocols to a T. What I know is that she had her last dose of the Pfizer vaccine on February 12th. She went on a flight. And in this flight to Georgia, she was, unfortunately, 2.5 weeks ago, she now has COVID and she cannot smell and taste. She also had to go to the hospital for having chest pain. And so now she's on anti-inflammatory. And she tells me to tell her story because, again, it's one of these things of when you have the vaccine, you feel like you have this layer of protection and that you don't have to necessarily be as hyper vigilant. But she said that she, was eating, and so she took off her mask to eat, and she now regrets that wholeheartedly. And it's scary. What do? There is no second chance with it. And so whenever you're weighing risk benefit, just know that every interaction may be your chance. And just make the smart decision. It may not be the coolest looking thing, but if you see me out in public, you see me with a mask because I don't have time.
Well, trust me. If y'all could see some of the chats, everything I have, and the conversations, she is straight up hardcore gangster when it comes to the mask, the goggles, the gloves, the hand sanitizer.
People are nasty. I mean, but honestly, it just because, again, why would I risk my life when I don't have to? If it's simply wearing a mask, and I do, if I'm going to travel anywhere in public that's highly populated, I'm going to have an N95 because, again, I don't have time. But it is one of those things where I see where you don't get a second chance. I see that it's not just sick people, that it's young, healthy people. I see that it's people that are trying to take every precaution. And it can still happen to me, even though I'm trying to do the very best I can do. But I will give my damnedest to try to protect myself and protect my family so they won't have to make the decisions that families in my ICU last week were being forced to make. That's a very hard thing to do. And it doesn't have to be you.
All right. Dr. Ebony Hilton, always glad to have you on the show. Good to see you. It's been a while since we had you on the show.
Good to see you.
All right. Thanks a bunch. I appreciate it. All right, folks. You should hear what the doctor said. Put your mask on. Put your mask on. All right, y'all. Let's go to Charleston, West Virginia. Do we now have Barbara Unwine?
Yes. Hi, Roland.
Barbara Unwine with the Transformative Justice Coalition. Barbara, give us a sense of you've been out there. Describe for us numbers of folks and what was it like and the points they were making out there in Charleston, West Virginia.
Well, hundreds of people showed up. Bishop William Barber and the Poor People's Campaign of West Virginia was one of the big sponsors of this march and rally today. And I want you to know that people came out in this hot heat, almost 90 degrees, and marched for several long blocks. And we are actually still out here in front of Senator Joe Manchin's office. We've been here for more than 2 hours. People are so fired up, they don't want to leave. They're so angry about his betraying them as West Virginians. They elected him because they expected him to vote and to represent the people, and they feel betrayed and they're angry and they are still here. In fact, I see that they've actually brought out a podium because they want to rally some more. Even though we've been here for 2 hours here at the actual office of Joe Manchin. Now, of course, he ran and left, but his staff are here. We're here, and nobody wants to talk to the staff because we want the senator to make a pledge to the people of West Virginia that he's going to vote in their interests and vote so that they can be freed of the voter suppression that was done here in this state this year, and that the nation can be free of the voter suppression that's happening all over. So it is imperative that we change his vote, that whatever he wrote a couple of weeks ago, he's got to take every bit of that back.
All right, then. Barbara Arnwine, was really appreciated. Thanks a lot.
Well, thank you for having me, and just everybody, be ready, because we're coming to D.C. the week of the 21st during the Vote for the People Act, and we are going to turn the heat up. We will see everybody in D.C. on the 23rd and on the 26th, where we're going to have major marches, so be right on the outlook.
All right. Barbara Arnwine, founder and president, Transformative Justice Coalition. We appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir.
Folks, going to a break. We come back. We'll talk with Florida Congressman Byron Donalds, he Republican, who says that the CBC is keeping him out from joining. He joins us next on Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Hello, I'm Nina Turner. My grandmother used to say, all you need in life are 3 bones. The wishbone to keep you dreaming, the jawbone to help you speak truth to power, and the backbone to keep you standing through it all. I'm running for Congress because you deserve a leader who will stand up fearlessly on your behalf. Together, we will deliver Medicare for all, good jobs that pay a living wage, and bold justice reform. I'm Nina Turner, and I approve this message.
White supremacy ain't just about hurting black folk.
Right.
You got to deal with it. It's injustice. It's wrong.
I do feel like in this generation, we've got to do more around being intentional in resolving conflict.
You and I haven't always agreed.
Yeah.
But we agree on the big piece.
Yeah.
Now, conflict is not about destruction.
Conflict's going to happen.
Before Till's murder, we saw struggle for civil rights as something grown-ups did.
I feel that the generations before us have offered a lot of instruction. Organizing is really one of the only things that gives me the sanity and makes me feel purposeful.
When Emmett Till was murdered,
yeah,
that's what attracted our attention.
Black TV does matter, dang it.
Hey, what's up, y'all? It's your boy, Jacob Lattimore, and you're now watching Roland Martin right now.
There are 2 black Republicans in the House of Representatives, one in the United States Senate, and one of them out of Florida says that the Congressional Black Caucus is keeping him from joining. Joining us right now is Congressman, first of all, Byron Donalds. Congressman, glad to have you on Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Of course, anytime. Thanks for having me.
First and foremost, and so you said you wanted to join. When did you last communicate with the Congressional Black Caucus? What was the process and what was said to you? And who did you talk to?
Well, actually, it was really the first week I was up here on Capitol Hill after swearing in. I talked with a couple of members. I know Joyce Beatty and I, we had a brief conversation on the floor. The question was asked, would I be interested in joining? I said I would be interested in joining. When I was in the Florida legislature, I had joined. I was a part of the Legislative Black Caucus for 4 years. And so at that point, it was just, she was like, okay, well, we'll be in touch. I said, okay. And we didn't hear anything. So I had my staff reach out, a couple times over the last few months. We never heard anything. And then last week, this story drops on BuzzFeed, which, shocked me, shocked us here, in my office. And then, here we are.
So when you say it shocked you, and so of course, BuzzFeed did a story saying that you were being blocked from joining the CBC. You reached out, you had not joined them. So that was not a story that your staff put out. So you're not aware where the story came from.
No, we never put anything out. In my office, my staff understood that we weren't going to talk about it. We were going to just, have those conversations quietly. So when you see an article drop, you're kind of like, well, where'd this come from? And I mean, look, let's keep it real. If I was going to drop a story, I wouldn't drop it in BuzzFeed. That doesn't make any sense. I would have dropped it on foxnews.com, but that's not where it dropped. Obviously, they've covered it. CNN has covered it. A lot of people have. But I'm not in the business of dropping leaks to reporters. That's not how I operate. For me, if I feel a certain way, I'll come and meet with you directly and tell you. I'm not going to use media to do it.
Why do you want to join the CBC?
I think actually it's important to have the conversations that affect, obviously, the Black community and the different policies that will. My politics might be different from a lot of the members in the CBC, but that's no different than how it was when I was in the Florida legislature. But I think those conversations from all sides of the political spectrum are very, very important because it can help actually distill a lot of these ideas down into ways that will be most effective, not just for the Black community. Because you got to understand that when you legislate, you can't just write a bill for the Black community. You have to write legislation that impacts the entire country. So obviously you want it to have positive impacts on the Black community, but you also have to understand in the back of your mind, it's going to have impacts for all of the country. You want to make sure that those things operate for everybody so everybody can thrive and succeed. Secondarily, I think it's important that you have these relationships that exist in the legislative process because it changes it from just being Congressman Donalds or the new Black Republican to being, well, that's just Byron. And so let me sit down with Byron and figure out where he's coming from. I can share with him where I'm coming from, and maybe we can find a way forward.
When it came to the passage of the House Bill 1 dealing with the issue of voting, how did you vote?
I voted no on that bill, and I'll tell you why. Because, first of all, in Florida, we actually have, in my view, the best election law in the country. We have massive access points to the ballot. You can get your absentee ballot anywhere about 2 to 3 months before election day. It's really like 3 months before election day. You have really good opportunities to vote through early voting, some of the best in the country. And then, of course, you have election day. We do have voter ID laws. We have things like that have been in Florida law for more than 20 years. And so, in my view, representing a district in Florida, why would I support the federal government taking over election law when I know my state and the area I represent already has great election laws where people have the opportunity to go vote and nobody challenges them?
Because the reality is that it's not just a question of what happens in your state, it's what's happening in other states as well. When it came to the certification of electors, how did you vote?
I actually voted not to certify in Pennsylvania and Arizona.
Why?
But the other 48 states were never contested.
Why?
Well, because it's very clear. Hold on, let me get to that. Because it was actually clear, based upon the information I was looking at, that in Arizona and Pennsylvania there were violations of election law. And so you have a situation where, under the Constitution, state legislatures write election law. And I know the argument is, but there was a pandemic, so adjustments had to be made. But let's be very clear, it is not the role of a supervisor of elections or the state elections officer or any judge to change election law.
But I thought Republicans believed in the rule of law and judges ruled. And in fact, I thought Republicans believed in the rule of law and judges ruled. Secondly, you also had more than 60 court cases where it was challenged in the courts. Donald Trump and his team lost all of them.
The point is not whether the court cases were won or lost. The point is that when you're looking at electoral college votes, you have to look at what the law was and what the actual implementation of law was at the time. The judges in the courts, they have their role. They did whatever they felt was necessary, but Congress also has a role as well. Congress does have the responsibility of certifying electoral college votes, and it's important for people to understand that this is not the first time electoral college votes were challenged. They were challenged in 2000. They were challenged in 2004. There was a member of the Democrat conference who challenged in 2016, and that went away. So these things have happened in our past in our country. So just saying now with the election of Joe Biden that because you challenged in 2020, now that creates some dynamic where now you're to be ostracized or punished or whatever.
So I'm curious. So that's very curious because you just said that you did not want federal law change to impact voting there in Florida, but you in Florida are forming an opinion on voting in Arizona and Pennsylvania when the elections in Arizona and Pennsylvania were actually certified by Republican officials and others in those two states. And so how do you know what's better in Arizona and Pennsylvania when you're in Florida?
Because there's a process where Congress certifies and ratifies electoral college votes.
But no, you answer my question. How do you know? You answer my question. How do you know what's better? How do you know that there were irregularities when there are officials in Arizona and Pennsylvania who have said there wasn't?
The difference is that H.R. 1 actually goes against most of the way the Constitution is actually written.
No, that's not what I asked. That's not what I asked. Congressman, that's not what I asked.
H.R. 1 and election laws.
No, that's not what I asked. What I asked is not what I asked. What I asked is, how do you stated that there were election irregularities, but there are officials in Arizona and Pennsylvania, even of your own party, who said that the elections were fair, the elections that you did not have violations, that you did not have fraud. How are you, a congressman in Florida, to know what actually happened in Arizona and Pennsylvania when the officials there stated what happened in their own state?
But listen, first of all, you're assuming that I can't read as well. Of course,
No, I'm not assuming. I'm not assuming. But if there are people of your own party who have publicly stated, I'm just trying to understand, how do you know what happened there when they say it didn't happen?
Let me answer your question. Let's take the state of Pennsylvania, for example. It is crystal clear, no matter what anybody wants to say, is that the state Supreme Court changed election law unilaterally. Under Pennsylvania's law, you're not allowed to accept ballots after the polls close on election day. The state Supreme Court of Pennsylvania unilaterally changed that to accepting ballots 3 days after election.
Are they the highest court in Pennsylvania?
Can I finish my point? If you change the law at the court level, but knowing that under the Constitution, state legislatures are the ones who write election law, you're changing the rules at the end of the game. That's the reality. That's what happened. And so is
the Pennsylvania State Supreme Court the highest court in the land?
You have a decision to make at the level we have when it comes to certifying electoral college.
Let me ask you this question. Did the United States Supreme Court, I got to ask you a question.
Not to certify, based upon the reasoning that in those two states in particular, laws, the actual implementation, the actual practice of elections were not followed under law that was passed by the state legislature, which is the law of the land under the United States Constitution.
Did Donald Trump and his people sue, and did the Supreme Court reject the argument that you just made?
The Supreme Court chose not to take up the case, but
that's a rejection.
They did not take up the case.
That's a rejection.
But the Supreme Court is a separate branch of government.
But wait, hold on. But so is Congress. And so I'm trying to understand. If you're making an argument,
it's a vote in front of us. We have the opportunity to cast that vote as well. Just because a court says something or the Supreme Court says something, when the matter comes before Congress, you still have to cast a vote, yay or nay. They didn't lock the voting machines and said, well, this is all over, and so there's no vote for Congress to take. There is actually a vote. There is a constitutional process that happens.
Got it.
It's a constitutional process that has happened multiple times before. And so to distill this whole entire argument down to certification votes on January 6th, that's really far afield from the full conversation we're even having right now about membership in the black.
No. I'm asking you, but you talked about.
This is why I'm going to make that point, because if the premise of this conversation we're having right now is that my intellect, my past, my road from the inner city to the halls of Congress, my policy beliefs, if all those things are now irrelevant because my vote on certification.
No, I didn't say that. First of all, who said that? Who said that?
That's the argument that you're presenting.
Actually, you're wrong. No, Congressman, you're wrong. Congressman, you're wrong. I'm asking you a series of questions in terms of how you voted on particular bills that, for the black community, in terms of where issues are. George Floyd Justice Act, how did you vote?
Wait, say that again. You broke.
George Floyd Justice Act, how did you vote?
Oh, I didn't vote for that bill. I voted against it. And the reason why I voted against that bill is because of qualified immunity. I think the qualified immunity provisions in that bill are actually going to be very harmful to police forces in urban corridors, because the reality of qualified immunity, in my view, and having talked with many officers in law enforcement, is that if you change qualified immunity standards, you're actually going to have less officers on the street. If you have less officers on the street, it's actually going to lead to higher crime rates in our cities. We're already seeing that right now with the elements in different cities where police budgets have been shrank down, or you want to call it defunding police, or whatever you want to call it. The correlation effect is real. If there's less officers on the street, crime rates have gone up.
Well, first of all, there are examples. Congressman, there are examples where police in Chicago and Baltimore chose not to actually do their job because they were angry when one of their own actually were indicted by the DA, and then also crime went up because they chose to slow down. Let me ask you another question. So, okay, so you saw the John Lewis Act. How did you vote on that?
This is the bill about John Lewis's Act dealing with voting rights, but also bringing back pre-clearance.
Yep.
Is that what we're talking about?
Yep.
I vote no on that bill. I don't believe that we need
COVID,
pre-clearance.
the COVID bill. How did you vote?
Oh, that bill is trash. I voted no on that bill.
On the American Relief. How did you vote on that?
Say that again.
On the American Relief Plan. How did you vote on that?
Wait, what? Say that again.
You had the COVID bill, and so you said that bill was trash. So here's my question: out of all the bills that have been come through the House, where African Americans have that from an African, first of all, the COVID hate crime bill. How'd you vote on that?
The Asian American hate crime bill?
Actually, not the Asian American. It's actually not the Asian American hate crime bill. It's actually Asian Americans not even in the actual title. But to paraphrase it, it's been called the anti-Asian hate crime bill. How'd you vote on that?
I voted no on that bill because we don't need to have that bill. That bill is not necessary for what's happening right now in the country. Do you have an issue with what's say to be Asian hate? That may be rising, potentially, maybe. But let's also.
It's not potentially, or maybe. The facts are there. The data is there. It was even documented under the Trump DOJ.
When you had the shooting that occurred in Atlanta, Georgia, every element of law enforcement came out and said at that point in time, and several weeks after, that it was not a quote unquote hate crime. There were other things that were.
That was one shooting. That was one shooting.
To pass that bill, so that's what happened. So I voted no on that bill.
Gotcha. If making Juneteenth becomes a national holiday, comes before the House, how would you vote?
I'm sorry, we were talking over each other again.
If it comes before the House to make Juneteenth a national holiday, how would you vote?
Oh, I would vote yes on that. I think Juneteenth should be a national holiday.
So if HR 40 comes to the House floor, how would you vote?
Which one is HR 40?
HR 40 deals with creating to study the impact of slavery. It's called the reparations bill to create a study of it, not actually to grant reparations, but to actually study the very issue. How would you vote?
Actually, I just finished reading that bill. I would vote no on that bill.
Gotcha. So out of all the things I talked about, the only one that you said you would vote for is Juneteenth. And so if you did a poll of the issues that black folks care about, where do you line up in the interest of African Americans?
I think if you're talking about where the interests of African Americans lie, the first one is having quality access to education.
Actually, that's not number one.
Actually, can I talk? If you're talking about the issues that actually impact people and families in their community.
No, actually, I'm talking about polling data has been done, and that actually is not number one. The criminal justice reform is number one. So, but go ahead.
Healthcare, education, healthcare, a quality economy, and yes, of course, criminal justice policies. If you actually know my history and my record, when I was in Florida's legislature, I worked on criminal justice policies. It's one of the things I worked on, and I support actually having quality reforms to make sure that our criminal justice system actually recognizes and comes into the 21st century while also making sure that we keep communities safe. That's something that I do believe in. I think that's important to do with respect to what Congress has passed up here. But I would also say that you also can't take the baseline of what this Congress has passed or this Congress has put forward and say, well, you didn't vote on these bills, so now this is a window into what your ideas are. Because the truth of the matter is there's been no discussion about the measures that have come before Congress. These are things that have gone directly to the floor from the Democrat Party, from the majority party up here on Capitol Hill. So there's been really no discussion. There's been no ability to make amendments. There's been no ability for debate. And so you're asking me to vote yes or no on policy ideas that I disagree with for portions of those policy ideas. And that's the way I vote.
So, but again, when you're talking about, speaking to those particular issues, if you poll African Americans in the George Floyd Justice Act, it will poll very, very high. You voted against that. If you poll African Americans on the issue of COVID relief, the bill that was passed will poll very, very high. You voted against that. And so we can go down the line. And so, again, when you're talking about speaking to the interests of African Americans, the Congressional Black Caucus is called the conscience of Congress. Yet you also supported Donald Trump, someone who viciously attacked many members of the Congressional Black Caucus, especially women, never apologized to any of them, and you would support him again. I take it if he ran 2024 that you would actively campaign for Donald Trump and support him?
Again, I'm gonna say to make the same point I made earlier. My point and my support.
No, I'm just asking. I'm asking if Donald Trump runs in 2024, would you support actively campaign for him? Yes or no?
I said earlier, which is already now the tone of this entire interview, and I don't want to get on your interviews. How you do it is how you do it.
No. I'm just Congressman. Understand? I'm just asking a series of questions. Congressman. I'm gonna let you finish. I'm just asking a series of questions to know where you stand. Go ahead.
And let me make my point.
No, go ahead.
Here we go. So all I'm saying is that if you are going to distill down who I am in my entire journey to get to Congress and the thoughts and the ideas and the principles that I do have, to a vote on a series of bills which are highly partisan bills and my support for President Trump, I don't think that's actually a good thing for our politics.
But Congressman, that's not what I did. Congressman, that's not what I did. That's not what I did. Congressman, my audience, here's the deal. Congressman, my audience doesn't know who you are. They don't know who you are. And no, they don't know who you are. I simply brought up, Congressman, a series of bills that we have talked about on a significant basis on this show, and I wanted my audience to know exactly how you voted if they're not familiar with you. Go ahead.
Well, Roland, every time I start to make an example, you ask another question. You don't even give me an opportunity.
No, I've actually let you finish a number of questions. I just had another question. Go ahead.
Now, to the question about President Trump, if he ran in 24, would I support him? Yeah, because I'm a Republican. I'm going to support the Republican nominee. I'm going to be out in front to make sure that a Republican takes the White House. But the real question is, why would I do that? Because my viewpoint is, go ahead, put the picture up. My viewpoint is...
That's what we do. It's called a television show. We produce it. So, yeah.
I ain't got no problem with that.
Yeah, so I'm saying, okay, that's what we do. Go ahead.
Finish. My point is that I believe that conservative principles, that limited government, that lower spending from the federal level, that a lower base tax policy that leaves more hands in the hands of more people, especially small business owners, actually promotes an economy that can grow and thrive, where even people who grew up poor like me, they can actually earn more money and have more ladders of opportunity in our economy. I believe that parents should have the same purchasing power poor families as wealthy families do, and that they shouldn't just be put into an educational system because of where they live. I think they should have access to those educational opportunities wherever they may be. And if government funding follows that child, they should do that. I believe that in healthcare, we should have a robust health insurance economy so people can find a policy that suits their needs. Because what happens right now is that when you factor in deductibles and you factor in premiums, people are spending more money just to have the policy itself and don't have the disposable income to fully access the care under the policy. Those are Republican ideals. That's what I support.
Well, actually, to be honest,
I think it would actually be helpful for the Black community, whether they're poor members of the Black community, middle income members of the Black community, upper middle income members of the Black community, or even rich Black people, and that will also be helpful for all of America at the same time.
But the Affordable Care Act actually played a significant role in decreasing the number of African Americans who had no access to health care. Second of all, that was actually a Republican plan because it came from Mitt Romney out of Massachusetts. And thirdly, Donald Trump had 4 years and not one time to even present even remotely a health care plan. And not only that, let's just also be clear. Donald Trump loves to play footsie with white supremacists. So you, after what we experienced for 4 years, you would welcome having that back in the White House. You can be Republican. A lot of Republicans out there who are Republicans, hardcore Republicans, but who did not support that man. But you would willingly stand behind him after what all he did for 4 years, including the newest revelations regarding getting the access to phone records of Democrats, even his own White House lawyer. You would want that back in the White House?
First of all, let me say, whatever Mitt Romney passed in Massachusetts is not conservative policy. Just because Mitt did it doesn't mean that I would.
But Mitt's a Republican.
I'm a conservative, Roland. Just because Mitt Romney did it doesn't mean that I would support it because it was bad policy in Massachusetts and it's bad policy for the country.
But you just said that you would support Donald Trump because he's a Republican. He would be the Republican nominee, but Mitt's a Republican. So you support some Republicans, not all.
I let you speak. Can I speak?
Yeah, go ahead.
I support conservative ideals. Just because a Republican puts something up, if it's not conservative, I'm not going to support it because it has to matter. It has to align itself with the principles that I just outlined about 30 seconds to a minute ago. The second thing I will tell you is this. What I fully support is an economy that grows and thrives, where income levels for all socioeconomic groups can actually rise, for all ethnicity groups can actually rise. What I do support is not having an economy that should be basically racing out of the gates, but is actually being stalled out because of massive overspending, talking about the COVID relief bill, that was not needed, that is actually holding our small businesses back. And our small business owners are white, Black, and Hispanic. They're across the spectrum in our United States. So I support an economy and policies that come from elected officials that are going to allow for all of us to thrive and not get caught up in these ideological arguments of, well, we believe higher taxes and more regulation work, when we already know you take more business out of you take more money out of small business. Who does that really hurt? It's not going to hurt rich people. It's going to hurt middle-income people and poor people who work for said small businesses. It does it every single time.
Well, I'll tell you what's actually hurting small businesses and poor folks. When you have the rich in this country not paying their fair share, the ProPublica stories breaks that down. So I would love to see Republicans actually. Hold on one second. I'm gonna finish and let you finish. I would love to see Republicans fully fund the IRS so they're not auditing folks who are in the middle class, but they're actually auditing the super rich in this country. Even they admit they don't have the funds because they've been cut by Republicans. But Republicans have cut their funds and not allowed them to do their job. Be nice if that happens.
Let me ask you this question.
Would you support that?
Hold on. Do you know when the most tax revenue was ever raised in the history of the United States, adjusted for inflation?
Tell us when.
It happened in 2018 and 2019. I sit on the budget committee, so I know the facts. The facts are the most tax revenue ever in the history of our country, both in dollar amount and as a percentage of the economy, happened in 2018 and 2019.
Did the deficit, you sit on the budget committee? No. Since you sit on the budget committee, did the deficit under Trump increase in those same years?
I said 2018 and 2019. I didn't even raise the name of whose president was.
No, I'm asking. Did the federal deficit increase in 2018 and 2019?
They did, but I'm talking about tax policy. That's your question. You're talking about tax policy, right?
But the tax policy, that tax cut actually contributed to the deficit increasing. And I thought Republicans are fiscal conservatives.
Oh, that's not true. That's not true, and you know that and here's the deal.
Are you serious?
Hold on. Oh, I'm very serious because.
Hold on. I just want to be clear. You're saying that the tax cut, the $1 trillion tax cut, did not increase the federal deficit. You said that that's not true.
I'm gonna make my point to you.
Go ahead.
If you look at what the estimates for what tax revenue were from the Congressional Budget Office under the Tax Cut and Jobs Act versus what tax revenue actually was from under the Tax Cut and Jobs Act, the federal government raised more money in revenue than CBO projected. So if you're going to project that tax revenue is going to be $2 billion, for argument's sake, and tax revenue is actually $2.5 billion, how is that a cut? Can you explain that to me? How does that add to the deficit when you bring more money in than you expect it to?
This is a piece right here, a couple of things I want to show you that I think is critically important, where the folks at Forbes, not the most liberal publication, talked about the federal deficit and how the Trump's tax cuts did lead to an increase in the federal deficit. But also, when you mention the issue about conservative and Affordable Care Act, this is what Forbes also said on more than one occasion. President Obama has said the core idea behind Obamacare came from the Heritage Foundation, and PolitiFact raised the claim as mostly true. Heritage Foundation ain't the most moderate group. That's a very conservative foundation. And so looks like Democrats also took a Republican idea and made the Affordable Care Act. So it's kind of conservative.
Like I told you before, just because somebody puts their name on it from my side of the aisle doesn't mean I'm going to support
No, Con. What you said is, just because a Republican put their name on it, I'm not going to support it. You said, but I am a conservative. The Heritage Foundation is also a very right conservative foundation, right?
I don't agree with the policy because I've actually worked in insurance. My career is 17 years, finance, banking, and financial services and insurance. And if you run an insurance market that way, what you're going to have is what we do have. You're going to have policies and premiums that are too high for a lot of people to afford.
So where's the Republican health plan? Where is it?
Let me just finish it.
No, I'm just asking, where is it? I've been looking for it.
And then what you have is you have people who are trying to get the same insurance. They don't have the ability to afford it, so government has to come in with subsidies. When government comes in with subsidies, those are the things that actually add to the deficits that you were so concerned about from under the Tax Cut and Jobs Act.
Also, this is again from the folks at Bloomberg who laid this out, that the Trump tax cuts did take a bite out of revenue in this country, and that it said in the 2 years since the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017 took effect on January 1st, 2018, the annual U.S. federal deficit has grown from $681 billion to a bit over $1 trillion, according to the Treasury Department. But those are the numbers there. Here's the deal here. I still would like to know, again, when you talk about being a part of the CBC, we'll see what they say. But what my audience is also asking here is they want to know specifically, not broad education, this, they would know specifically what things that you will support that specifically has a direct impact on the black community. That's one of the things that they also want to know.
If you're talking about police reform, criminal justice reform, healthcare, education policy, all those things have impacts on the black community. And the policies I support are reforms that actually unleash education, unleash healthcare to be more vibrant, to have far more options, far more choices, and actually help black families, or frankly any family for that matter, with respect to education specifically, have the purchasing power to go and find the environment that best suits their kids. If that doesn't help improve the lives of black families, it most certainly does, because when you give a family a choice, or let alone a black family a choice, where they can actually find the environment that best suits the needs of their children, that's going to help their children thrive and succeed. And I know you and I both want that.
Well, first of all, I'm somebody who co-founded School Choice is the Black Choice. That's not an issue for me. But what I also understand is that one of the fundamental problems that I do have with Republicans when it comes to education is what I'm seeing when it comes to textbooks, when it comes to this ridiculous thing they're doing, the attack on critical race theory. That's not even being taught in elementary schools, middle schools, and high schools. It makes no sense. Even the bill that was passed in your state made no sense whatsoever, because critical race theory is not taught in Florida schools. But again, we know critical race theory has become the boogeyman for all issues dealing with race in education. And so, yeah, I got a whole bunch of issues when it comes to the Republican Party on education. And let's be real clear, I've also been very critical of Democrats when it comes to the issue of charter schools, magnet schools, school choice as well. And so, frankly, I think in a lot of ways, both parties are full of shit when it comes to education, and they really don't care about the people, their agendas. You have the right who wants to take down teachers' unions. And then, of course, you have the left who wants to support them. But it all comes down to what's right for the child. And I'm not sure that people are real about that. Well, Congressman Donalds, glad to have you on the show. Certainly welcome you back again. Unfortunately, a lot of your white colleagues are too scared to come talk to black-owned media. I've offered a platform for more than a decade. Very, very few have actually accepted the opportunity. And so we'll see if they want to actually communicate with black folks and listen to them, they might want to come talk to black-owned media.
Listen, it was my pleasure to be here with you. Been watching you for a while, so I know you've been following a little bit of your career. It's my pleasure to be on. I know I'll be back on in the future.
All right, thanks a bunch. We appreciate it.
All right, you take it easy.
Real quick, I want to go to my panel here. We have them back, and that is this here. Julian, Makongo, and Michael. Should the CBC allow Congressman Donalds into their ranks?
That boy is hot monkey crazy. There's a nicer way to put this.
Hot monkey crazy? What is that? That's the first. I ain't never heard that. What is that?
About voting.
What the hell is that?
You're doing the interview. He's instructing you on how to do the interview. He doesn't answer any questions. He starts out by saying he doesn't believe in race-specific legislation, and he ends up by talking about the black community. Well, enslavement was race-specific. Let me be clear. Was very race-specific. Like I said, hot monkey crazy. You know monkey crazy. Heat it up a little bit. Hot monkey crazy. Very well spoken. Obviously, they do train their Republicans well, but I can see why the Congressional Black Caucus don't want to fool with him, because all he's going to do is come in there and throw a monkey wrench into operations. As it is, they don't all get along, which is fine. We don't expect them all to, but you've got, the blue dogs, and you've got basically on the other end, the squad.
Got it.
He's like to the right of the blue dogs. Go away, dude. Just go away.
Omekongo?
Nah, they shouldn't let him in. I mean, look, the Congressional Black Caucus has even had white members before, Senator Bill Cohen, if I'm correct. And so...
No, actually, no, Congressman Steve Cohen. Steve Cohen has tried to join, but he said by representing a mostly black district, but they told him no.
Sorry, thank you for that correction. He should not be brought in because, period, bottom line, he wants to come in and be a disruptor. And in a Republican Party where Mitch McConnell is focused on blocking anything that Democrats are trying to do, then he has no place there.
Michael?
I mean, it's hard to want somebody in your organization that supports basically Mitch McConnell, Donald Trump, Speaker McCarthy, Congresswoman Taylor Greene. I mean, that's who he stands with. He's thumbs upping with 45. I mean, that's who he stands with. It's not about a Democrat Republicans because CBC has had Republican members, including the congressman from Connecticut, Congressman Frank. So they have had Republican members. That's not what this is. But he is so far out there. And it'd be hard, I'm sure, for some of the women members of the CBC to watch somebody walk in that supports 45 who is extremely disrespectful to some of the women CBC members. It's just, no, I don't think he should be part of the organization. If they don't want to have him, he shouldn't be in until Roland, you laid it out. You gave him every opportunity to say which bills were important to him or how he voted. And the only thing he said he would support is Juneteenth. And I question that because if Minority Leader McCarthy called him and said, look, I don't want you to vote for that, I don't think he has the backbone to stand up to the minority leader and say no, and I'm going to vote for it. So he's a bunch of baloney. All he is he's too far right. He's a Trump supporter that ends it.
Well, again, I know you kept talking about interrupting. I gave opportunity to explain himself and answer the questions. And so I want to have a baseline so people can actually hear for themselves how he voted on those issues. And so we'll see if the CBC allows him in. And so we'll certainly have him back again. To your point, you're right. Congresswoman Mia Love was a member of the CBC. You also had Gary Franks, as you're speaking of, who was a member. There were others who chose not to join. Congressman J.C. Watts chose not to join when he was there. Senator Tim Scott also chose not to join. So we'll see what happens. All right, folks, let's go to my man, Bill Duke. Set in 1955 in Detroit, his new movie is called No Sudden Move. It is about a group of small-time criminals hired to complete a heist, but something goes terribly wrong. Take a look.
You said a man wants to see me.
Alley out back.
He ain't coming in. What, is he white? Oh, boy. So what's the score?
We're sending a man that works in an office to pick something up. You are part of a babysitting team watching his family while he does it.
Good morning.
Everything is normal, except...
What do you want? Is that something you'd say? Normal Monday? I'm gonna shoot you right now.
Can I go home now? Wait at the house after.
What do you mean after?
Right off of you.
What is going on?
What's going on, big guy?
Yeah, what are we doing?
We're following instructions. Are you helping me or are you not helping me?
No.
Thank you. Set up, man.
God called me, offering me $10,000 to turn you in. 15 for the white guy.
Think you're the only one that can make a move? I can make a move, too.
Have the keys. I like to listen to the radio. Organized crime like the mob. Well, I guess that's the $64,000 question, isn't it? It's been a long day. I'll put this over you so I can relax.
Thank you. You having a good time?
So, how'd it go?
We had a little slip-up at work.
I don't think that's the end of that. You chickened out. Oh.
The problem is you're not smart enough to know how not smart you are.
which makes you unpredictable, which makes you untrustworthy. Why are you doing this, man? Because I'm going to get what's mine. I'm sorry.
I'm going to punch you now, sir. I'm punching you. This is going to be a punch. Boom, boom, boom.
All right, folks. It's great to see, of course, Don Cheadle joining us right now as the award-winning director and actor Bill Duke. Bill, what's up?
Hey, my brother, how you been?
Man, always glad to see you. Your movie, of course, made its debut at the Tribeca Film Festival. It was a centerpiece of the festival. It's going to be released on HBO Max exclusively on July 1st. And so what made you interested in this script?
It's a murder. It's like an action, a mystery. It's well written. And when I saw the cast of people that were going to be with Don Cheadle and Matt Damon and all the rest of the great actors, I mean, I just wanted to be a part of it. That's all.
And so, again, to be a part of it. And so let folks know, Bill Duke ain't retired. Look, when it comes to acting, directing, you still handling your business.
Thank God, man. I'm still doing it. And, God's been good. I mean, I'm still working and directing and acting. And I have two. As a matter of fact, I'm launching my own network online called Unite. I think I told you about that. Which is all you hear on the news is bad news and dividing us as a culture and as a country. We report all the good news that's happening around the world. There are a lot of good people doing great things, and we want to put that up.
With this particular move, you got a chance to also work with Steven Soderbergh.
It's my third time. The first thing was The Limey, then High Flying Bird, and now this film. When we did High Flying Bird, man, it's like really showed me a lot. He filmed the entire film with 5 iPhone 7 Pluses.
No, I remember. I actually talk about that movie a lot, and I actually watch it at least every couple of months to study it, because I tell people, again, what he did with that movie just using iPhones. And so I'm always looking at camera movements, all lighting, all those different things.
Yes.
And like literally, I talk about that movie all the time.
When he did the dolly shots, they rolled him around in the wheelchair, man.
Yeah, I read a backstory on it where he said that if I did not shoot this with an iPhone, I could not have gotten those shots, especially coming down the hallway as he was backing up and then the character moves to the other side. I told you, I read the stories. Then, of course, you have a line of that movie that's one of the best ones, that they invented a game on top of a game.
That's right. Exactly right. Exactly right. But it's about gangsters. It's 1954. It's about gangs, and I play the OG of the black gang and our negotiations in terms of how not to kill each other, but at the same time get what we want.
All right, then. I got questions from my panel. Julianne, you're talking to the great Bill Duke. What's your question for him?
Bill, first of all, congratulations on your film and all your work, your very storied career, and all that you've done. Roland asked you early on about why you are attracted to this particular script and this particular film. How much of it is true and how much of it is fake? I mean, is this a real, true story that occurred? And is the racial aspect of it the same as it was in 1955 when the story allegedly took place?
Yes, it's based on a true story, and you'll see the racial factors in it. But the thing is, it's I like the mystery of it. I like the fact that he reveals different aspects of it one little bite at a time. So he hooks you and carries you through, not only in terms of the story, but emotionally in terms of caring about the characters. So it's well structured. It's got great character arc, great story arc, and that's why I wanted to be a part of it.
Michael.
Mr. Duke, it's an honor and a pleasure to talk to a legend. I have, and congratulations as well on your new film. I have an economics question for us lay folks who are not involved in Hollywood. We obviously, when we go to a movie theater, pay whatever we're paying, we understand how a film makes money. But now in this, obviously after the pandemic and films are being streamed, how do folks make money that way?
Well, are you talking about distribution-wise?
either way, how do you make money? How do the actors make money? Because again, folks aren't walking into a movie theater and laying their money down.
I know, but they're laying their money down for, memberships to different online networks. And so that's how they're basically making their money. Also through ads that are being streamed on the networks also that are online. But they're, in terms of actors, they pay us if you're a DGA member, they have to do DGA. If you're a SAG member, they do SAG minimum or whatever. And whatever your agents can negotiate. It's the same game. That in terms of negotiating salaries and your participation, that game has not changed. It's always it's called show business. And the business of it is not changing, my brother, believe me.
And so, are you making the same amount that you would if movie theaters were open?
More.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Because the thing is, a movie theater is one thing, right? But check this out. Global distribution now is a push of a button. Remember before you had to open domestically, and then international, and then DVDs or CDs or whatever it was, right? Now with the push of one button, all that's cleared and everybody can see it all over the world. When I first came along, there was no internet, brother. There was no social media. Do you guys remember the first cell phone?
Yeah, that big ass brick.
Remember?
That big ass brick.
Remember, Roland, do you remember how I thought I was so cool? I had one of the first ones, and it was like a foot wide, long, and then you had to carry with a box. Remember those days?
Yeah. I'm like damn near a tripod case.
Well, things have changed, guys. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Omakongo, your question for Bill Duke.
Mr. Duke, thank you so much for everything you've done in your legendary career, and most recently with Black Lightning, which I truly loved. And your work inspired my brother to become a screenwriter because he loves what you do. One of the questions that I have is, what do you think about the state of Black Hollywood coming out of, one, the pandemic, and two, the Oscar So White movement? Do you feel like coming out of both situations that there are more opportunities for Black people in Hollywood or less?
That's a very good question. The total infrastructure has changed to a certain extent, but the ratio in terms of the number of films that come out with Black folks in them, etc., it's changed to a certain extent, but it needs to increase. But I'm not concerned as much as about that as because, there are young people still coming to Hollywood waiting to be discovered. There are other cultures that are in Hollywood, and because of social media, they're discovering themselves. If you look at Issa Rae, for example, she started off with webisodes. Now she's got her own programs on, different TV stations, etc. It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, been on for 9 years, started off as webisodes. So what's holding us back is us. We're not understanding the business of the industry, how it's changed. We've gone from film and television into media. We need to study what are the opportunities global for us in media. And we need to really understand that the business has changed. It really has.
All right, then. Bill Duke, we certainly appreciate it, man. I'm going to be coming to L.A. in August, and so we'll hook up and then sit down and do a longer one-on-one interview with you. We'll talk about your book. Yep, I got it. We'll talk about that and some other stuff as well. And why are you wearing that Sigma hat?
Because I knew you would ask a question.
Well, why? I mean, so is that like Phi Beta Sigma? Is that what that is?
It's Sigma, brother. Come on. Now,
no, trust me. I don't hate on youth groups.
Okay. Let me ask you a question. One time you tried to tell me that you played bid whist. Is that true?
No, too ghetto. No, I did not play bid whist. My parents loved to play bid whist. They told us we were young. We were too young to learn, and they never taught us. I know. You know, you think the bid whist godfather, but don't let me have to remind people that ass whooping you took at Vanessa Bell Calloway's house from Brandy's mama and her daddy.
I let them win because the students I teach, I encourage them. That's why they won.
I just want everybody to know, I had one of my famous dinner parties at Vanessa Bell Calloway house, and when we did the one at the Farquhar's house, Bill was over there. He was the bid whist master. I'm going to teach everybody how to play, and y'all, he was going through this sort of stuff. But then we got to Vanessa's house for the next dinner party. All I know is I heard a loud commotion outside, and all I heard was Brandy's mama. Just popping cards, just like bam, and Bill was silent as hell. Bill sounded just as silent as a Sigma and Omega silent, and Alf was winning the step show. That's how silent he was.
Next time I'm gonna beat her till she confessed the things she didn't do wrong.
Right. Okay. All right. You don't let me have to go and do a throwback and say, you know, you fucked up, right?
Oh! No, you didn't. No, you didn't.
Yes, I hit you with one of the top 5 famous movie lines of all time. You know you fucked up, right? Gotcha.
Oh, you got me that time. That's okay. I'm going to payback is horrible. Man.
You walk right into that one. Gotcha.
Payback is horrible, man. Okay?
All right, Bill. I appreciate it, my man. Thanks a lot.
God bless you, man. It's my pleasure, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. All right, y'all. No Sudden Move will make its debut Friday at the Tribeca Film Festival as a centerpiece of the festival. And as I said, it's going to be released on HBO Max exclusively on July 1st. Y'all know what time it is?
No charcoal grills are allowed.
I'm white. I got you, huh?
Illegally selling water without a permit?
On my property.
Whoa! Hey!
You don't live here.
I'm uncomfortable.
All right, if y'all don't know that Bill Duke line, just go on to YouTube and type it in. All right, y'all. Lord have mercy. So y'all know how these black delivery drivers have been being accosted by these crazy white people around the country. Well, let's just say when this white guy in San Francisco rolled up on this brother, he learned real quickly he done rolled up on the wrong bruh.
Please get out of my face. Put your mask on. There you go.
I'm outside. I don't need a mask.
What the fuck do you want?
I want identification. Who are you?
Who the fuck are you? Why do you think that I have to answer your fucking questions? Why do you think that I have to answer your questions, dude?
So who are you with?
It's none of your business. It's none of your business. Get out of my way.
Who are those addressed?
Don't worry about what the fuck I'm doing. Get out of my face. Every time I come around here, motherfuckers like you make my job harder. Please get out of my face, dude.
But you haven't identified yourself.
That's none of your business. Why do you think that I have to identify myself? You ain't seeing nothing. You ain't seeing nothing. Don't worry about who I'm with. It's none of your business.
Who are the boxes addressed to?
You really gonna do this? What's your name? Let's see some identification. What's your name? What's your address? Pull it out. Come on. You live right there, right? Let's go over there and see what your address is. Since you got something to say about it. Right? That's what you want to do? You want to ask for identification?
You're the one in the neighborhood here.
Yeah, that's right. So what? It's a free fucking country, ain't it? You did this. Don't start shaking and crying. What's your name? What's your name, buddy?
John.
John what?
That's all you get.
John what? John what? You come over here asking for identification? John what? I don't give a fuck. Fuck you and your missing packages. You think I'm crying over that shit? John what? You want to ask for identification? Where's your fucking identification? Nah, it's good. I'll one-up that. Good. Go fucking look for a police officer, you pile of shit. Don't think I don't know why you came over here and stopped me. Because you think I belong in another neighborhood, right? Fuck yourself. You are why people get killed and end up on the fucking news, you pile of shit. You're the fucking reason why. Fuck you. Oh yeah, me? This is where this asshole lives. When I first came on this street, he hollered at me from that window right there. He asked me what I'm doing. I told him none of his business, and he came down here and wanted to talk to me. So now we're gonna talk. $2255 Clay Street. Bit off more than you could chew, didn't you? Good for you. You heard about the Karen Act, right? So good luck with that. Who's really breaking the law? Okay. Good thing you did this, huh? Good thing this is how you woke up in the morning and decided what to do. This is what you decided to do with your day. What's your last name, John? Hey, John, what's your last name? What's your last name, John? Call them now. You should call them. For what? Tell me what you're calling them for. Because you're harassing me. Oh, now it's harassment. Before, it was because I was walking down the street. Now I'm harassing you? Didn't you call for me from that fucking window right there? Didn't you call for me? I was across the street. You called out to me. I didn't come over here looking for you.
Don't harass me, okay?
Hey, nah. Call the cops. Call the cops, please. Please, call the cops. You fucked up. No, because you're an asshole, and this is why people fucking die. Motherfuckers that look like me die because of motherfuckers that look like you. Have you not opened up a fucking newspaper? Can you not look around and see what the fuck is going on because of this bullshit right here? Fuck that shit. Fuck that shit, man. And now, motherfuckers like me, got little fucking handhold recording devices in our pockets. So bullshit assholes like you can't get away with the bullshit you be pulling anymore. So go ahead, call the fucking cops. Call the fucking cops, man. You already said you're gonna call them, right? I'm not evading. I'm not leaving the scene of a crime. That's what you said you're gonna do, right? So call the cops. It's none of your business. You shouldn't have fucking stepped on my toes in the first place. And a younger me would have beat your fucking ass, but I'm not gonna do that. Call the cops. Call the cops. Call the cops, man. That's what you said. Did you call the cops? That's what you said, right? You're threatening the police on me.
No, I'm telling you that if you don't stop threatening me, I'm gonna call the police.
Threatening you with what? With words of truth? Does the truth get on your fucking nerves? Look at my face. Look at my face. Yep, that's me. We already got your fucking face on camera. You scared you're gonna lose your job now or your fucking $1 billion funding? Don't nobody feel bad for you. Don't nobody feel bad for you. Fuck out of here, man. You're living up in your fucking mansion bothering me. I'm a hardworking man. What the fuck do you do for a living? You sit on your ass and type behind. You sit on your ass and type behind a computer, huh? So then why is it your business?
Because I ordered something.
Oh, now it's because you ordered something. A second ago it was because I might be a pork pirate. But now it's because you fucking ordered something. You came out of your fucking living room across the street to where the fuck I was at. Fuck that. You called the cops, right?
Please, just leave.
Did you call the cops? Did you call the cops?
I haven't yet, no.
Are you gonna call them?
No.
Fuck out of my face, man. You mean you fucking clown. Dear Pack Heights. Hey, everybody. I'm not here to steal shit. You fucking happy now? I'm not here to steal shit, you fucking rich assholes. You ain't got nothing fucking better to do? Why don't you go for a fucking hike? Go do something good with your money. Huh? How about that? Go do something good with your fucking money, man. Go do something positive. Instead of sitting in your castle, recording me, making an ass out of yourself. We didn't have to do none of this. We didn't have to do none of this at all. I've been here all my fucking life. 30 years I've been in this fucking city right here. And every time I come around here, a motherfucker that looks like you got a problem with a motherfucker that looks like me. You think that's coincidence? You ain't got nothing to say now, do you? Do you? You gotta bother me while I'm doing my fucking job. A hard, honest work living like you assholes always say, hey, get a job. I got a job, right? You motherfuckers still fucking with me. So what now?
Now, I know a lot of y'all, look, a lot of cursing going on that video there, but Michael, bottom line is this here. This is how you turn that thing. Oh, now all of a sudden you want to come at me. Now all of a sudden you want to check my packages. And so that brother there went at that bigot. He knew exactly what he was doing. He was trying to challenge that brother while you in the neighborhood. And then let me look at the packages. Say what?
Look, he went all in. Good for him for doing so. And one question I have, Roland, relative to usually on your videos, the white person who's acting like a clown gets fired or loses his job. Do we know if that happened to him?
Don't know. Still waiting here to find out what happens here. But Julian, my boy put his address out there, showed the building. Yep. He let everybody know. But then I love it how John wanted his information, but then didn't want to give up his own information.
Oh, 2150 Clay Street, y'all. One of the most affluent neighborhoods in San Francisco. Flood his mailbox. Send him letters saying, fool, what wrong with you? Brother, I was just cracking up. Brother man was time enough for it. You talk about time enough. He was time enough for him. He was not backing down. He was not taking anything. And that's how it's supposed to be. All too often, what we do as Afro-descendant people is that we fade. We don't necessarily give it back like we got it for obvious historical reasons. But this brother was he was Roland Martin unfiltered. That's
he was unfiltered. On Congo, he said, a younger me would have beat your ass, but I ain't gonna do that because I'm older.
But he also dropped that Bill Duke line as well at one point. And so this goes back to what we were talking about with the police in the first segments. Folks are tired, and they're going to start turning on these folks and giving it right back as good as they're getting. And these guys need to be exposed, and they need to all be put on blast to let them know that we are not having it. You can only deal with so much of this, Roland. And he spoke for so many of us in what he did in that video. Period. Bottom line.
It's crazy. Folks, in Tennessee, we got another crazy story. In Tennessee, when two teens painted a rainbow on a bridge. This is called Pride Month for folks who are LGBTQ. This is a space where the community uses as a free speech space. Well, this white woman here, she was not happy. She just let loose after, not just with a spray can, but a mouth.
Something, okay? Okay. Go. Yeah. Goodbye.
Oh, no, we're going to stay here.
Okay, good. No, I'm taking over.
Nice.
I got just as much right as you.
No, you do.
Actually, I have more damn right. Because you know what? I work. I pay taxes. I'm an American.
We paid for the spray paint. Yeah. We were born here, too. Pretty sure my English is better than yours.
Oh, yeah. I think my English is just fine because you're understanding exactly everything I'm saying, right? I'm sick of you all shit. Y'all are just constantly something. Always trying to stand out. Make a big freaking scene. If y'all would shut up.
We're making a scene. We're making a scene.
Just like when
we bothered no one.
Why? Look, because all you want to do is express.
These bridges have been painted for how many years, and now you're going to come over here and doing our stuff?
Why? Y'all like each other? Are you confused?
Yeah, this is my girlfriend.
Yeah, it's your girl.
Well, the woman is Tabitha Dardo Travis. She's an employee of Blount Memorial's Wellness Center in Maryville, Tennessee. She also teaches aqua aerobic classes for the Maryville, Alcoa, Blount County Parks and Recreation Department. A lot of folks have been tweeting Blount Memorial for the last few days, and they really have not addressed this issue. We are talking about Tennessee on Macongo.
We are talking about Tennessee. I mean, this is the place that when Dr. King was assassinated, people were celebrating. JFK was assassinated. People in Tennessee were talking about, the N-word lover is dead. So as we see that, this ignorance is just ridiculous. And when it's directed at teens like that, this is sad, and Blount Memorial needs to be put on blast because you can't have this. This is abusive, and people just think that just because people may not use their fists in certain ways, this is verbally abusive. This is abusive to who these young people are, and the ignorance is at such a high level that everybody in Tennessee should be embarrassed, and they should all be putting Blount Memorial on blast because she has no business being employed there or as an aqua anything instructor. She has no business around people. This is monstrous.
I'm just like, y'all, seriously? I mean, you got that much time? You mad because they painted a rainbow? You that mad? Really?
Right.
Julian?
She's that ill. What it is she's that ill. It's not about being mad. It's about being ill. What that previous president did was unleashed a whole lot of hate. Michael Brown was right in the previous segment. He said he didn't start it, but he definitely exacerbated it. And so you have people who don't mind using the N-word. You have people who don't mind making anti-gay, GBLTQIA comments. There was one case very recently where a woman did Pride cookies, and one of her customers then canceled a very large order, which had already been prepared, because she said that she was promoting gay propaganda. So we've got people who they feel like they can say anything out of their mouth. And Obakongo's right. This is abuse. This is abusive. These are young people who are developing sexual identity and don't need to be shamed because of who they are.
Okay, first of all, it's like, Michael, for me, it goes beyond even just the young people. Y'all, you tripping on is painted. Really? I got a lot of stuff better to do for me than run around with a can of spray paint, painting over stuff. Really? That's what like the dumbass people sitting there trying to paint over Black Lives Matter sign. Man, take your silly ass on.
Well, I think one of the teenagers even mentioned during the whole incident that you've walked, they were saying to this lady, you've walked by this wall a million times and it hasn't bothered you at all. Now all of a sudden it's bothering you. Because again, as America is changing, folks like her can't handle it, don't want it, don't like it. And as long as they feel emboldened, because now you're right. Now that they've said, okay, now I can do these things. What can happen? Yeah, I could lose my job, especially if Roland Martin puts it on his little video show. That's what they're, of course, thinking, and that could be a deterrent. But the only real deterrent, that's a main one, of course. You don't want to lose your job. Well, I'm sure they don't. But the culture of who we are as Americans have to change, and acceptance of America, not necessarily that it's being browned, but what America is. It's always been a melting pot. And for whatever reason, a lot of white folks don't see it as a strength. They see it as a weakness. And until that kind of turns, and obviously the last 4 years had a lot to do with that, I think we're going to see more and more of these instances.
Lord, these people are just absolutely out their minds. All right, y'all, that's it. I appreciate it. We're a little longer than normal, but thank you so very much for sticking around with us in Macongo. Julian, Michael, Julian, again, congratulations on your new gig. Heading out west. First of all, what city is that?
L.A., California State University at Los Angeles.
Okay.
It's only the second school of ethnic studies in the country, so it's an exciting opportunity.
All right. Well, congratulations. They should be paying you enough to get a big-ass house, so we'll be looking for a house party. I'm just letting you know right now we come to L.A. Don't even try. I don't want to hit.
A house party, but Roland, what I want from you is a lecture. I want you to come to my campus and give me a lecture. I don't want you to charge me them speaker bureau fees.
Oh, well, see, you clearly just messed up. You better go to the... Wait a minute, hold on. You the damn dean. You over the budget.
I'm the dean, but not the president.
Well, go to the president and say, Mr. President, I'm going to need y'all to set some money aside for Roland Martin to come on through, because that's how he got to pay for Roland Martin Unfiltered. So that's all I'm saying. Hey, y'all out there, y'all want to support what we do, please do so. Join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar you get goes to support this show. Makes it possible for us to be able to broadcast from. Henry, give me a wide shot. Y'all can already see we are breaking down our space. Just zoom the camera out. So normally, y'all, I got monitors over here. No, literally, we are breaking the office space down. We are moving out of this studio, moving to a new studio. Of course, we will be moved in July 1st. We got to be out of here in the next 17 days. And so we're going to be real busy doing that. Again, y'all can support us in what we do by joining our Bring the Funk fan club. Cash App, $RM Unfiltered. PayPal.me/R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo.com/RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Folks, thank you so very much. I will see you guys tomorrow right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Oh!